Well, do you know, so do I.
Oh.
All right, we should be good to go for YouTube. Janet, I'm gonna turn you back around as host.
All right. Let me get Gunner on here, Jeff. Let me go ahead and make you co-host.
Thank you.
Well, Susanna, the mailman still thinks that you guys live at my house. I have a package for you.
Janet, I'm gonna turn you back around as host.
So I'll give it to you tomorrow. Get Gunner on here, Jeff. Let me go ahead and make you.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Gunner.
Hi, Gunnar.
Give me 1 second, Jeff, to make sure. Jeff, give me 1 second. I got to get our engineer on here.
Okay.
Actually, we could go ahead and just start, and then I will get him on.
Gunner, are we ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the November 9th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. My name is Jeff Carson. I'm chairman of the Board of Zoning Appeals Committee. Tonight, we have on hand several introductions I want to make. Nathan Reasons is vice chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Gunnar Hand, director of Land Use and Urban Planning, will be with us this evening. Janet Parker, the executive assistant to the Department of Land Use and Urban Planning. You'll be hearing a lot from her this evening. Have the following members of the, I'm only seeing Gunnar from the Planning Commission tonight. So we will also be joined by Patrick Waters, Unified Government Legal Counsel, and we'll have Martin Tangira with the Unified Government Engineering Department. We also have the following Board of Zoning Appeals Commissioners present: Commissioner James Ernst, Commissioner Susanna Pauley, Commissioner Jake Miller, Commissioner Brandy Armstrong, Commissioner Joanne Huey, and Commissioner Mark Mueller. Did I miss anyone? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and turn the meeting over to Secretary Parker, who will read the opening statement and let you all know how we're going to handle the meeting this evening.
We would like to welcome those participating by telephone or Zoom to the meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Due to the COVID-19, the members are participating remotely by Zoom. Mr. Jeff Carson is serving as chairman this evening. Please note the following instructions for the meeting. If you are joining by Zoom video, please make sure you have an appropriate background and plan to stay visible during the meeting. When speaking, if you have not been announced by the chairman, you must raise your hand feature and wait to be unmuted by the chairman. Board members, use the raise your hand feature to speak, and please state your name when you begin to speak. If you need to recuse or if you need a personal break, use the raise your hand feature. If you are having issues getting into the Zoom meeting, please email planninginfo@wicokck.org and let Secretary Parker know. Proper meeting decorum is expected of all participating in the meeting, and anyone who fails to act properly may be removed from the meeting. The city reserves the right to discontinue a meeting if any improper behavior occurs which prevents the uninterrupted conduct of business. The format for this evening's meeting is as follows. The applicant will make the opening statement explaining the proposal. The applicant will be given 15 minutes to present their case, which includes the applicant, consultants, and other members of the applicant's team. Members of the board will then address any questions they may have to the applicant. Any persons wishing to speak in favor will be recognized and allowed to do so at that time. Then those members in opposition will be recognized to make their statements and ask questions, with each member of the public being given 5 minutes to express their opinions. Time may not be shared between speakers. A speaker's time may be extended in 5-minute intervals by a 2/3 majority vote of the board. The applicant will then answer questions and make a closing statement. The public hearing portion of the meeting will then be closed, and the public will only be allowed to address the board if a question is directed to them. The staff will make their recommendation, and the board will discuss the application and make their decision with a brief statement of the reason for the motion preceding the making of the motion. Motions to approve shall include the staff stipulations unless otherwise stated in the motion. Mr. Chairman, our first application is appeal number 2386, Brad Haymond with North Point Development for property at 1921 North 118th Street. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No. Janet, before we begin, Patrick, I see that your hand is up. Did you need to say something, or just want to make everyone aware that you were on the call? Patrick Waters. Patrick, did you have a comment that you needed to make? I saw your hand up.
No, I'm just trying to get see if I can be promoted to a panelist.
Okay, I think we've got you. I think we've got you moved over.
Okay, thanks.
If not, Janet, can you make sure that happens?
Yep, I've got him taken care of.
Okay, Mr. Haymond, I see you're on the call. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and if you could introduce yourself, give us your name and address, please, and tell us about your project.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Brad Haymond with North Point Development, 4825 Northwest 41st Street, Riverside, Missouri. Thank you guys. Good evening to you. And just want to talk a little bit about the project here. Is there a way that I can present?
Janet, he should be able to share his screen. Is that correct?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is not letting me let him share.
And Gunnar, if it's easier for you, I just shot you an email. I don't know if you can pull it up of just the slides I was going to run through as well.
I'm sorry, it's not letting me let him share a screen.
Gunnar, I think he sent you the slides. Can you go ahead and open those up?
Yeah, just 1 second. I'm going to pull them up.
And Gunnar, the PDF is the same as the PowerPoint, so either one is fine.
Everybody see that?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Just wanted to run through the project, just give a little bit of an overview on it. So I hope most of you are familiar with North Point, as well as what we've done here over the last few years in the first two phases. So this is kind of a continuation of what we've done with Village West Luxury Apartments, as well as Prairie View, with just a little bit of a different style. So this one is located just to the west of the first two phases that we completed over the last couple of years, and will have access from both Parallel as well as Delaware Parkway, and take that strip just to the west of the second phase that was completed just about a year and a half ago. So one thing that we wanted to highlight on there, Gunnar, if you wouldn't mind flipping back to the two slides, the second slide. Yeah, there's pictures of our last two projects there, just in case you aren't familiar with them. And you can go ahead and flip to the next slide, Gunnar. So the one item that we wanted to discuss in the staff report, overall, we are in agreement with all the conditions of approval, but just ask on the staff recommendation number 2. So one of the big topics that we had a couple of meetings with internally with your staff on was just the how the site lays out. And there is a big main building that contains about 150 dwelling units. And the conversation is just how close to Parallel Parkway that building wants to sit. So the staff recommendation or staff note number 2 is the one that we are wanting to have further discussions with and give you a sense of why we laid out the building the way we did. These past 2 projects, I wanted to show a couple of pictures. It's very important to us to have these internal courtyards.
Brad, can I interrupt you for a minute? Are you addressing the parking variance, or are you moving into your planning commission discussion? Because right now we're talking about your variance on the amount of parking spaces that you need.
Okay, I apologize about that. Yep, I was getting a little ahead of myself.
That's what I thought. So I kind of needed to get us back on point here. We're only discussing your need for a variance of the number of parking spaces that are required.
Okay.
And then we'll get to your other project when we get to the next meeting, and we'll have those discussions.
No problem. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Yeah, as far as it relates to the parking itself, what we did is, as far as the parking ratio goes, is it's very similar to what you saw in both phase 1 and phase 2. Both of those, I believe, required a variance as well too upon approval of those projects. The one thing that has continued to evolve and why sometimes that variance that we come up against a lot of municipalities on is really the influx of studio units. So this project contains studio units, which the first 2 phases didn't have as well too. Those are usually generally just single individuals, just usually starting out their professional careers, looking for a quality apartment at a fair price, and we're able to achieve that need in the community. A lot of times you have young people working at Cerner and some of the other local offices and businesses in the community, and those individuals really don't have multiple cars, or usually are not couples or roommates or anything. So that is one area that the parking ratio has really continued to come down on with the influx of studio units. And that's just one point that we wanted to bring to your attention as you consider that request.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? First hand I see up is for Dustin Burton. If you'd go ahead and please unmute yourself and then go ahead and give us your name. Give us your name and address, please.
Yeah, Dustin Burton with RIC. I'm at 1815 McGee Street. I'm actually engineer for Mr. Haymond. I just wanted to discuss, to make sure that this was also an item. There should be a height variance with this request as well. I think only parking was mentioned, but the height variance was another item that was put forward. So I just want to make sure that's clarified.
That is correct. In our staff report, and when we'll get to staff recommendations and comments, we'll get to that. But yes, there is a request to amend the request to 5 stories.
Great, thank you.
Is there any comments that you want to add with regard to that request, why it's necessary, why you're requesting it?
I think it's just it goes along with what happened on the other 2 phases. In fact, you can kind of see the top right here what's presented. The internal courtyards and the grading. The idea is have that bottom floor kind of face outwards, which would put it up to past that 4. It's really kind of 4.5, I guess you'd say. So, but
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So with that in mind, I will go back to the commission. Is there any questions for the applicant based on the parking variance request and the variation in height? Seeing none, again, we'll go back to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your hand, please. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. I'll go to staff and get their comments. Director Hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. This proposed case addresses two issues. One for the number of stories currently in the district that they're allowed 4 stories. They're requesting 5, a total of 5 stories on each of the 4 buildings on the site plan. They're also looking for a reduction from 540 required spaces to 512, a deviation of 28 reductions. There's been no opposition to this case to date. It is tied to, and you heard it a little bit earlier from the applicant, it is tied to a change of zone master plan amendment preliminary plat, which you will be hearing at the Planning Commission hearing later this evening. But specific to the parking variance and the height variance, staff recommends approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Mueller, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Strong,
Aye.
Ernst, Ewing,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Polly,
Commissioner Polly,
Aye.
thank you.
reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 6 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
Our next application is appeal number 2392, Omar Khalil, for property at 808 Split Log Avenue. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
No.
Okay, Mr. Khalil, are you in the audience? You could please raise your hand so I could recognize you. Okay, sir, if you could go ahead and please unmute yourself, give us your name and address, and tell us about your project.
Omar Khalil, address 6121 West 87th Street, Overland Park, Kansas. Just looking for a variance for the code that requires us to have a third of the lot coverage for the garage. We're off by a couple of less than 1%. And we were just looking to get a variance to approve that. I had a neighborhood meeting. There were only 2 attendees. I think they were more concerned with acquiring the lot versus the variance. They had no comments on the variance. So I went through the proper channels to get the variance approved and just kind of waiting for feedback from you guys.
And this is new construction that you're building here?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I will open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your hand. Seeing no one in the audience that would like to speak, I'll go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting and we'll go to staff for their comments. Director Hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everybody, I switched PDFs. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this is in the, this is an infill site in the Central Area Master Plan. I would make the note that we just passed, the Board of Commissioners approved the Central Area Master Plan 2 weeks ago now, which did have quite a few strategies within it and implementation actions to figure out how to do this type of infill development. As you can see right here, Mr. Khalil's property is right in between 2 existing homes on an infill site. It meets in term, we worked with Mr. Khalil over quite some time, adjusting the design to match the narrow lot design guidelines. And this was just the last little bit that we couldn't make work out. So he is 15 feet behind the front entrance of the building. It's just the width of the garage is just ever so much more than a third of the total frontage. It's 1.67% over, actually. So we're talking like an inch, if that. He did mention at the meeting, we've received some notes regarding neighborhood opposition, and it was not opposition to the project. The adjacent property owner expressed that they had wanted that property for a yard extension. And that's kind of irrelevant to the case, but it was noted, and we wanted to make sure you understood that. We had also sought with Mr. Khalil to potentially do first, as per the narrow lot design guidelines, a detached garage off the alley. It's an unimproved alley, so it's by plat only. It's not an actual alleyway, and it's just as a reminder of a previous case. Unimproved alleyways are not maintained by the county, so we're not going to go out there and pave it, and to ask them to do that would be a little too much. So we looked at another option. There's another option in the narrow lot design guidelines to do a detached garage in the rear yard with a driveway. And Mr. Khalil had said that that would be too expensive. That's 2 structures instead of 1, a longer driveway, so on and so forth. So we understand that. We recommend approval.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Make a
Move to
motion to approve.
Motion to
Second.
approve made by Commissioner Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mueller. Any discussion on motion for approval? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Yui,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mulder,
Aye.
Pauly.
Aye.
And reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this appeal passes 6 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
Our next appeal is number 2394, Sean and Jenny Ziolo, for property at 12935 Meadow Lane. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
No.
Mr. or Mrs. Ziolo, are you on the call? If you could please raise your hand so I could recognize you. Thank you. Go ahead, please, and give us your name and address and tell us about your project.
Sean 2935 Kansas 66109. We have a external garage that we had drawn up by an architect. I had sent it over to our Freeman Farms HOA board, and they had approved it. I sent it in for to be approved for a building builder's permit, building permit. And when we had it drawn up, I knew that there was 1,000 square feet max variance we could go, so we went 990 on the floor. I did not realize that when we were putting an attic in it and stairs up to the attic, that extra, I think it's 330 square feet, went over the 1,000 and was counted. So that is why we are asking for a variance. I did do the following recommendations as far as reaching out to the list of homeowners and banks that was requested to send letters to and have a meeting on October 23rd that I did hold at my home. And at 6 o'clock, nobody had shown up to that meeting, but I did hear from 4 surrounding neighbors, the Kerwins, the Millers, the Hollies, and Judge Robert Sarah, that they did approve and did not have any questions in regards to that.
Anything else?
That is all for me. I'm sorry.
Okay. And just a question for you. The area of the attic of the building, is that there will be no living quarters or anything like that? What is that going to be used for?
It's basically just storage, so I can take the storage out of the basement of my home and have the other square footage for when I do finish that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your hand. Not seeing anyone in the audience that wishes to speak, so we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to staff and get their comments. Director Hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, get our hands with our planning and urban design. Any habitable space, it counts towards the total square footage. And this one has a second floor. You saw some of the drawings of the project previously. We did add a condition to match the materials of the primary structure. We think that the drawings reflect that, and the applicant had mentioned that's what he wants to do. So with that, we recommend approval.
Any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion to approve by Commissioner Huey, seconded by Commissioner Mueller. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Strong,
Commissioner Cho's not on the call.
I'm
Janet,
sorry.
we're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, you are? Okay, I'm sorry. Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Commissioner Ernst,
Aye.
thank you.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, a motion to approve this appeal, subject to the staff's conditions, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, apparently I can't count past 6 tonight because the first 2 applications were approved 7-0 too.
Thank you. I was wondering where the other one came from. So thank you for clarifying that. So the first 2 applications passed 7-0.
Next application is appeal number 2396, Ryan Hartje, for property at 3817 Ruby Avenue. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
Okay, Mr. Hart, if you go ahead and unmute yourself, please give us your name and address, please, for the record, and tell us about your project.
Ryan Hartje, 1920 Shawnee Drive. I'm the general contractor for the project. The homeowners had a previous storage structure in a similar location where they want to have this new structure. It's the purpose of the building is going to be hobby space for their kids and some additional storage. The original structure was set within 5 feet of the alley and I think 4 or 5 feet of the side yard, and they'd like to keep it to the rear of the lot to preserve some of their backyard for open space.
So again, can you clarify what kind of structure it is that they're putting back there?
So it'll be a bit just a, not sure what to call it, an outbuilding that their kids can go out and hang out in, play video games. They have a pool or wading pool back there, and they have yard games. So they want to keep the kids from coming in and out of the house so much when they're hanging out in the backyard.
And this won't have any type of living quarters. We'll have a bathroom or a kitchen or anything like that.
They'd like to have a toilet and sink in there, but no living quarters, no kitchen.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant's representative? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? I have Johnny Wright. If you go ahead, please unmute yourself, give us your name and address.
Hi, this is Bill Wright. I'm
Bill
Johnny's
Wright.
husband. The address
Okay.
is 3810 Wyandotte. We're across the alley. This is a nice looking structure. I don't see any reason that it can't stay. That's basically what I have to say. I'm in support of this.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Okay, seeing no one else from the public that would like to speak, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. So this is a variance request for two variances. There's a side yard and a rear yard variance. The required side yard setback is 5 feet. They're requesting 4. The required side yard, rear yard setback is 20. They're requesting 5. Again, to sort of match where the existing shed/building is. It is near a historic landmark, so this case, if approved, will need to go through an environs review. We also have applied conditions regarding matching the material of the primary structure. We also added a condition, as per your comment, Mr. Chair, that because there's a bathroom, we wanted to make sure that this specifically was not an accessory dwelling unit. It's just an accessory structure. So if need be, we have recourse. If anybody starts seeing people living back there, we have a condition of approval to address that in the future. All in all, we recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff stipulations.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mueller, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. Any discussion on motion for approval? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, a motion to approve this appeal, subject to the staff's conditions, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to hear 2 applications together, and then we're going to vote on them separately. The first one is appeal number 2398, Chase Thompson, for property at 1959 South 51st Street, and appeal number 2399, Chase Thompson, for property at 2025 South 51st Street. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to these applications?
No. Okay, Mr. Thompson, I've got you ready, queued up to speak. If you go ahead and unmute yourself, give us your name and address, please, for the record. Tell us what you'd like to do here.
My name is Chase Thompson, and my address is 2025 South 51st Street, and we don't intend to make any changes to either property. I've had both for quite a few years, and we're just going to kind of relatively leave it as a forest, and some of the area that was initially a field is kind of letting it go back to forest. So, but yeah, for the most part, we're not going to be doing anything differently.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Seeing no one in the audience that wishes to speak, we'll go back to staff and we'll get comments from Director Hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Director Hand, Department of Planning and Urban Design. These are 2 of 3 cases Mr. Thompson has brought before us. If you recall, last month we approved to change a zone for a separate parcel a little farther away than these 2 to AG. These 2 are abutting one another. The parcel to the, I believe it's south, is where Mr. Thompson's current residence is. Again, they want to preserve it as agricultural land in the future, but they're doing no agricultural activities. They've talked a little bit in their application about diversifying the species of trees that are on site in terms of sort of maintaining biodiversity. Both of these parcels are just under the 5-acre minimum required to be agriculturally zoned uses or properties. The 12398 at 1959 South 51st is 4.97 acres. So it's off by 0.03 acres. And Boza case 2399 at 2025 South 51st. Again, this is the one with the existing single family home on it. Is 4.92 acres. So just a little bit smaller. It's 0.08 acres off. Staff has no issues. There's been no opposition. We recommend approval for both. And again, we need 2 separate motions for each.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion on 1959 South 51st Street.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Mueller, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Yuri,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Polly,
Commissioner Polly.
Aye.
Thank you.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve appeal number 2398, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion on appeal number 2399 for 2025 South 51st Street.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mueller, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Yuri,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Polly,
She said aye. I could see it. I couldn't hear it, but I could see it.
okay. Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve appeal number 2399, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
Our last appeal on this agenda is appeal number 2400, Range 23 Brewing, for property at 13400 Donahue Road. Does any member of the board have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
Okay, Mr. Shotness, I'm sorry, you'll have to correct me on
That's
the.
okay.
There you go.
Shotanis.
I'm sorry?
Shotanis.
Shotanis, okay. Go ahead and give us your name and address, please, for the record, and tell us about your request tonight.
My name is Nathaniel Shotanis. I reside at 11240 Lakeview Drive in KCK. This is a variance for the requirement of paving the drive and the parking lot at the property at 13400 Donahue Road, which has a due west ranch currently on it. There's no change in that, but by having the brewery as well as the event space run by the ranch, we did run up against the requirement to have the parking lots that are currently existing as well as the drive paved. We've been over the reasons with staff in the previous months about why the applicants feel that this is not conducive to the area and that sort of thing. We did address the staff's concerns with making sure that gravel didn't make it onto Donahue Road by agreeing that we would do some gravel mitigation, being rumble strips or that sort of thing on that apron before they get to the road to kind of help alleviate that concern. Staff also brought up the issue of making sure that we did have ADA compliant parking, and we did submit in our responses that we would put that there at the entrance to the event space, adjacent to the concrete apron that's already sitting there, not apron, but the concrete pad that's already sitting there at the front of the existing space, tying into that and adhering with all of the ADA compliance. So this is in conjunction with our special use permit for both the event space and the brewery that'll be happening at the later meeting. needing that to be done in order to have that special use permit approved.
Okay, and so at the end of the day, you are asking for a variance for parking, the number of parking spaces also, correct?
Well, so I
Or
know
just one?
Well, so on the photos or on there are plenty of parking spaces there. There's a lot that's to the north. There's the lodge lot that's adjacent to the stables. There's the two little I guess forced parking spots there at the front of the building. In our response as well, we calculated the spots to be around 42 using the square footage of the building and the assembly space and that sort of thing. The 63 spots, I believe, that we stated were on the site were just the spots that our engineer identified. So there was definitely enough parking spots. The variance is just to not have it paved, to keep it in the current gravel state that it is.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, anyone in the audience who wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to the request? Seeing no one in the audience that would like to speak, we'll go to Director Hand for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. We worked quite a bit with the applicant on this one. This is associated with special use permit that you'll hear later on as the Planning Commission. Two, actually, there's one applied for by the landowner and one property owner and one applied for by their tenant, again, for a brewery and a event space respectively. As the applicant mentioned, this is specifically just not the number of spaces, but the fact that it's not improved. It is an existing gravel lot and gravel driveway. They do have an improved surface for the area that's within the public right-of-way. So essentially from Donahue and back to the property line, we're asking that there be an improvement so that vehicles exiting the use don't drag gravel into the roadway, which they agreed to. We counted it more than enough spaces. We do have some conditions of approval related to striping those. Even if it's gravel, you can still go out there with some paint and kind of associate and put them on there, as well as working with the applicant to improve the access areas for ADA spaces. So you might take a gravel driveway up, but if you need ADA parking, you'll be in an improved space and you'll be able to exit that improved space onto an improved drive, all the way up to the access to the building. So with those conditions, we recommend approval.
All right, thank you. So the 68 spaces are improved and they are improved to the point that they're at least on gravel.
They're existing, they're on gravel, they need to be striped.
Okay. Okay, I have a question from Commissioner Ernst.
Under past regimes, we've been very hard and fast on that must be paved rule. I have no opposition here. I just like to know that we would not make this a one-off, but rather this is how we're going to look at these things in the future.
Sure. I think that this probably this is an adjustment to the previous interpretation of this rule. We've had cases even since my tenure starting 6 months ago where we've applied that interpretation uniformly. This one was a little different. In fact, I would even argue the one earlier this summer may have been a little different. But what we're doing moving forward is a couple of reasons. Globally, Public Works just signed a consent decree, and they're working at incentivizing permeable surfaces, of which gravel driveways and gravel parking lots would be as such. We are going to apply those specifically to these more types of that sort of thinking to these more agricultural type uses in character neighborhoods. So this is obviously an agriculturally zoned use. It's obviously out in sort of the more agricultural rural area of the county. It's an existing driveway, not a new driveway. Not an expanded use. So for all those reasons, we sort of stuck with the new thinking that we're that we're doing moving forward with sort of trying to maximize permeable surfaces in the county to minimize our stormwater runoff globally. And that is, we're just going to require improved surfaces up to within the public right of way, so up to the property line, which they already have. And then we're going to make sure that all the ADA is improved surface moving forward. This is a unique case. Not too many rural or ag zone land have these types of event spaces. There's a couple of them out there, but it's sort of unique in and of itself. So we will be sort of reinterpreting that past hard and fast rule to be a little more lenient. This case was a great case in point to help us think through that. So we appreciate that. There's one other condition I wanted to
wrestle, buddy.
mention before I forget, and we might, Ms. Parker, can you remove Mr. Thompson from the, I think he'll be back in for his changes zones here in a second, but we also requested that a line of landscaping be planted on the east side of the driveway adjacent to the east property line. That, if you look at the here, you can't see it because there's a plot right there, but there's a house right here that this gravel driveway runs right by. So on the dry months, we want to make sure that we mitigate dust at night. We want to make sure we mitigate any headlights going in and off of the property. And so we asked for that screening to occur, and that's part of the approval as well. But to answer your question specifically, Commissioner Ernst, yes, we are adjusting our interpretation moving forward.
I applaud your direction.
Other questions? Mr. Shotanis, is there something else you wanted to say?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just had a question about that. And I mentioned that in our response. That's going to be more for the property owner to kind of go over as far as their ability to do that. And I'll get with the with staff to kind of figure out what their thinking is as far as what's required, what would kind of cover that requirement. And I did just want to point out as well to staff that and the commissioners that the property owner in question that owns that house, we've been in conversation with them before. They're really excited about both the brewery and the event space there. And also want to point out that the amount of traffic that the event space and the brewery is going to have above and beyond what currently is there from both the writing center and the lessons and boarders and that sort of thing that use the site is going to be minimal at best. So our use there is not going to increase the traffic greatly from what that's already been seen.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions for the director?
Mr. Chair, just to follow up on Mr. Shotanis's comment, we apply these same conditions to the two SUPs as well. So it'll be covered one way or another, and we can work with both property owner and Mr. Shotanis to understand what kind of landscaping we're looking at.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions for the director, I'll stand for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff stipulations.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Mueller, seconded by Commissioner Huey. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Strong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I motion to approve this appeal, subject to the conditions and the staff report. Passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. And that does conclude the Board of Zoning Appeals agenda. We will take a 5-minute recess, and then when we come back, we will convene the Planning Commission. Thank you. Janet, I'm sorry, but can you give me the date of the Board of Commissioners meeting, please, again? December
Yes,
3rd?
it is December 3rd.
Thank you. Can you say that again so we can have a mic test?
Yes, it's December 3rd at 7 p.m.
And you sound perfect now.
Okay.
Commissioner Huey, I gave her a stern talking to during the break.
What did she do?
She was commenting on your loudness.
And here I thought she was my friend.
I wasn't negative. I just said it was annoying because it sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher at times.
Yeah, actually, that's good. Yeah, that's actually good.
Well, Jeff
But
said I couldn't be heard, so.
Well, I said there was no problem in hearing you, it was understanding you.
Oh.
It was more, there's like just that slight echo.
So this is better now?
Much better.
Much better.
We want to hear the real Janet, not Charlie Brown's teacher.
Okay, do we have Gunner? Everyone back? Commissioner Miller?
Yeah, I don't have a quorum yet. There's
I'm here.
Gunner.
Commissioner Ernst, Commissioner Miller?
I didn't realize I didn't turn my video back on.
There you go.
Oh.
Okay, we ready? Okay, I want to welcome you all to the November 9th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Jeff Carson. I'm chairman of tonight's meeting. I'll make a couple of introductions before we get started. We have Director of Land Use and Urban Design, Gunnar Hand. We also have Janet Parker, who's the Secretary or Executive Assistant to the Department of Land Use and Urban Design. We also have Byron Toy with this Urban Planning and Design staff on hand with us. Martin Tangira with Unified Government Engineering Department. Patrick Waters with Unified Government Legal Counsel. And we have the following Planning and Zoning Commissioners present this evening. Commissioner James Ernst, Commissioner Suzanne Pauley, Commissioner Nathan Reasons, Commissioner Joanne Huey, Commissioner Mark Moeller, Commissioner Brandy Armstrong, and Commissioner Jake Miller. With that said, I will now turn the meeting over to Secretary Parker, who will read the opening statement and advise you all how we will run tonight's meeting.
We would like to welcome those participating by telephone or Zoom to the meeting of the City Planning Commission. Due to the COVID-19, the members are participating remotely by Zoom webinar. Mr. Jeff Carson is serving as chairman this evening. Please note the following instructions for the meeting. If you are joining by Zoom video, please make sure you have an appropriate background and plan to stay visible during the meeting. When speaking, if you have not been announced by the chairman, you must use the raise your hand feature and wait to be unmuted by the chairman. Planning Commission members use the raise your hand feature to speak. Unmute your microphone when it is your time to speak, and please state your name when you begin to speak. If you need to recuse or if you need a personal break, use the raise your hand feature. If you have called in by telephone only, or if you are having problems logging into the Zoom meeting, please email planninginfo@wycokck.org and Secretary Parker will assist you. Proper meeting decorum is expected of all participating in the meeting, and anyone who fails to act properly may be removed from the meeting. The city reserves the right to discontinue a meeting if any improper behavior occurs, which prevents the uninterrupted conduct of business. The Planning Commission is a voluntary body of citizens which will review each zoning proposal. For all change of zones, special use permits, vacations, and preliminary plan reviews on tonight's agenda, the Planning Commission makes recommendations to the Unified Government Board of Commissioners, who will then make the final decisions on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020. For final plats and final plan reviews heard tonight, the Planning Commission's decision is final, and there will not be another hearing. The format for this evening's meeting is as follows. The applicant will make the opening statement explaining the proposal. Please note that the applicant will be given 15 minutes to present their case. The 15 minutes includes the applicant, consultants, and other members of the applicant's team. Members of the Planning Commission will then address any questions they may have to the applicant. Any persons wishing to speak in favor will be called upon and allowed to do so at that time. Then those persons in opposition will be called upon and allowed to make their statements and ask questions. Please note that each member of the public who wishes to speak will be given 5 minutes to express their opinions. Time may not be shared between speakers. A speaker may request to extend their time, and the Planning Commission may, by 2/3 majority vote, extend any speaker's time in 5-minute increments. The applicant will then answer questions and make a closing statement. The public hearing portion of the meeting will then be closed, and the public will only be allowed to address the commission if a question is directed to them. The Planning Commission will discuss the application and make their recommendation. If persons in opposition want to formally protest a change of zone or special use permit, a means is available by a legal protest petition, which can be obtained along with the necessary instructions by emailing the Urban Planning and Land Use Department at planninginfo@wycokck.org tomorrow morning. Any application receiving a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission will appear on the consent agenda of the Unified Government Board of Commissioners. Unless there is a request to remove an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the Unified Government Commission, or other interested parties, the Planning Commission's recommendation will be adopted. The consent agenda is heard at the beginning of the meeting at 7 p.m. The Planning Commission will also have a consent agenda as part of the meeting this evening. The consent agenda is the first part of the agenda. Items on the consent agenda are final plats, final plans, or special use permit renewals that have received a staff recommendation to approve. Unless there is a request to remove an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the staff, a member of the Planning Commission, or other interested parties, the staff recommendation on all of the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Planning Commission at one time. I will read a list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the chairman will ask if there are any requests to remove items. This is your time to use the raise your hand feature, be recognized, and request that an item be removed from the consent agenda if you do not agree with the staff recommendation. The Planning Commission is required to disclose contacts about any item on the Planning Commission agenda. Before each item, I will ask if any contacts have been made, and members of the commission will be asked to disclose those contacts at that time. Please note that your opinions will be forwarded to the governing body for their consideration and making a final decision. In addition, those who receive notices for this hearing will again receive them for the hearing on Thursday, December 3rd. I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Consideration of the October 12, 2020 City Planning Commission minutes. Special use permit application SP-2020-93. Daniel Chang with Evergreen Daycare. Renewal of a special use permit for a daycare center at 1030 Orville Avenue. Menards Lot 1. Final plat for one commercial lot at 3115 South 18th Street. Plan review application PR-2020-24. Matt Schlitt with Engineering Solutions. Final plan review for a commercial development at 3115 South 18th Street. Call Valley Drainage District first replat. Final plat at 950 South 24th Street and 950R South 25th Street. The items I have just read are on the consent agenda. At this time, does any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact on any of these items?
No.
No.
Is
Please
there anyone
include the following items as part of the record for all of the items on the consent agenda. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the publication in the Echo for the special use permit, and the notices to property owners. The commission will vote to approve in one vote these items unless someone requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda.
Thank you, Janet. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to have anything removed from the consent agenda to be talked about separately? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, is there anyone on the commission that would like to have anything removed from the consent agenda for special consideration? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda subject to the stipulations of the staff.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent agenda made by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Commissioner Miller,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted.
thank you.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve the items on the consent agenda with the conditions in the staff report passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the special use permit will be heard by the Board of Commissioners on Thursday, December 3rd, 2020 at 7 p.m.
Thank you,
This
Janet.
now completes the consent agenda, and we are going to move on to the non-consent agenda. So if you were here for the consent agenda, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, or you can go ahead and leave the meeting. We do have 3 items that we're going to hear together, and they are all located at 11501 Parallel Parkway. Master Plan Amendment MP-2020-4, Brad Haymond with North Point Development. Master Plan Amendment from Planned Commercial and Business Park, which is Prairie Delaware Piper Master Plan, to High Density Residential Citywide Master Plan, and Change of Zone Application 3223, Change of Zone from AG Agriculture District to RP5 Planned Apartment District for future apartment complex development, and Village West 3, Preliminary Plat for 2 multifamily lots for 323 dwelling units. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, the notices to property owners, and the testimony at the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting tonight. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to these applications?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Haymond, you're ready to go. If you want to go ahead and please, again, give us your name and address, please, for the record, and tell us about your all-inclusive project this time.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Brad Haymond with North Point Development. I'm located at 4825 Northwest 41st Street.
Did we lose you? Do you want to go ahead and keep going?
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I realized I was on mute. Brad Haymond with North Point Development, 4825 Northwest 41st Street, Riverside, Missouri. Thank you and good evening tonight. Just want to talk briefly on our new proposed project out there. This would be the 3rd phase of apartments just to the west of our previous 2 phases that had been completed over the last approximately 4 to 5 years. So this property stretches from Delaware Parkway up to Parallel Parkway with access off of both roads. So with this project, we'll also be extending Parallel Parkway, or I'm sorry, Delaware Parkway to provide access, as well as continue that road further to the west. So ultimately, it's 323 apartment units that has contained in 4 buildings. The largest building on the north that faces Parallel Parkway will also consist of an integrated clubhouse inside of that, with fitness and all the amenities that are typical with our projects. Inside of those buildings, kind of the center courtyard, which is kind of a staple of what we've done on the previous 2 projects as well too. And that is one item of note that I wanted to discuss with you tonight. The center courtyard has a pool. It is a 2-tiered with kind of a retaining wall that separates the 2, connected through walkways, with a lower section courtyard that has proposed bocce ball and pickleball court on it. Wanted to talk with you overall. That's kind of high level about the project. The main item, staff has done a great job with the report. We are accepting of all the terms of the report, and just wanted to, with the exception of one comment that we wanted to address tonight, that is staff comment number 2, and that was related to the proximity of the building as it relates to Parallel Parkway. So one item that we strive for on our developments is to have this center section courtyard. In order to do that, typically we have the parking kind of on the exterior around the buildings to allow plenty of parking for the residents within close proximity to the buildings that they're going to and moving in. Another aspect to that is that it also allows for an easier center section courtyard to get from one of the buildings that may be remote to the main building that houses the clubhouse, as well as the internal mail and everything as well too, that they access on a regular basis. So kind of a 2-point system of why we really like and strive to have these center courtyards with the parking on the outside. So working with staff, the one item on there was just the proximity to Parallel. They wanted to push it further to the north and take the parking and move it to the south side of the project. Unfortunately, it doesn't work with how we envision the project and the parking itself. By doing so, that front building has about 150 dwelling units with it, and the associated parking that's around the building is about 189 stalls. So we're already at a pretty low parking ratio, which is why we really need to have that parking there in between the building and Parallel Parkway to allow easier access for the residents, as well as some additional parking for those people stopping by the clubhouse, whether it's new prospective tenants or whether it's people coming to stop by to get their mail during the inclement weather times. That's really all I had to talk about tonight. Just wanted to share a little bit about our project, our past projects, and the one staff comment that we wanted to note that was the only condition of approval that we wanted to share with you that we would like removed from the condition of approval.
Okay, can you review the parking numbers you said toward the end of your presentation? What is the numbers for required for this? How many residential units are in this building?
There's approximately 150 dwelling units, including the clubhouse as well.
And so that requires how many parking spaces?
For the clubhouse area or for the dwelling units?
For the area that we're looking to try to move the building closer to parallel.
Currently, we have 189 parking stalls that are associated with that building, and that's counting all the parking stalls directly to the east, north, and west.
And does that include the variance that you got in the Board of Zoning Appeals? How many units in this building are studio dwellings, which would require less parking?
I don't have the exact number of studios in that building offhand.
Because that does affect your numbers if what you told us before at the Board of Zoning Appeals holds true.
Yes, we do need lesser amounts, but that, I guess the variance that we're talking about as far as shifting the building, there's approximately 70 stalls to the north of that building. So that's where we really wanted to raise our hand and say we physically can't push that building further to the north, because then you're displacing an additional 70 stalls that would have to be moved clear to the south side of the site, furthest away from that initial building.
Okay. Questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I'll open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your hand. I am not seeing anyone from the public that wishes to speak, so we'll go to staff, Director Hand, for his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning, excuse me, and Urban Design. Again, this is related to a case you heard at the Board of Zoning Appeals hearing. That's BOZA case 2386 for the height variance and parking variance, which were approved earlier this evening. Basically, this boils down to your multifamily design guidelines and how they will be reviewed and interpreted. If you look at this site plan right here, we had added a condition to remove these one-story detached garages along Parallel Parkway as a part of those design guidelines, which put an emphasis on the pedestrian scale, pedestrian connectivity, and pedestrian connection to the major public right-of-ways. And so one of the conditions that Mr. Haymond mentioned earlier had been accepted, which was to move these elsewhere. So therefore, there won't be a single-family garage between the street and the building, which is great. And then generally speaking, we've conditioned this approval to address those other sort of pedestrian scale focuses. If I go to, for instance, this, you can sort of see that we've worked with the applicant on a lot of different site improvements, one of them being sort of this better announcement of the front door, if you will. Parallel Parkway would be to the right of this rendering. And then again, some of the conditions of approval, which you won't see in this rendering because it's not meant to show all the minutia. It's meant to just give a feeling for what it's about. But there will be a pedestrian connection from the public right of way into this pedestrian across this parking lot and into the main entrance here. So we feel pretty confident that with all those remaining conditions of approval, we can continue to work with the applicant towards the final plan to address some of these issues. The condition specifically that Mr. Haymond is, let's go to it here, is this second one where we've been working through some of these issues. We felt that based on how we were interpreting the multifamily design guidelines, it was important that we brought this specific issue to you all for your either approval or removal, which is what the applicant is requesting. Essentially, we felt part of that pedestrian scale was to move the whole building, not just this guy, but all of them, all four of them, shift it north so that it wouldn't be, so it would be less than, and we went through several variations with the applicant, but less than a row of parking, a driveway, a row of parking in the building, essentially going from parallel, sidewalk on parallel, row of parking, driveway, row of parking, then the building. We were trying to condense that a little bit to bring it closer to the street And that shifting of the footprint is what the applicant is asking you all to remove, namely because it essentially unbalances the parking lot, right? So if we squeeze the building north, the parking that was here would get pushed down to the south. And they're just saying that the distance from that parking to that building is too far to make those units marketable, or will hurt their marketability. And that's your decision to make, an interpretation of that condition. But again, considering all the other conditions that talk to those guidelines, we feel we can make the appropriate adjustments to the site, to pedestrian access throughout the site and up to the site. But also there's some planning engineering comments that need to be addressed in the final plan as well that are conditioned as part of this condition of approval. But with that, we would say you could probably keep it, but we're willing to talk through that specific condition with you all tonight.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open up for questions. We'll start with Commissioner Miller.
So, Director Hand, just for clarification, how much more are we talking about shifting to the street? Because it sounded like you were still talking about a row of parking, driveway, a row of parking. Are we getting rid of an entire row of parking, I'm assuming, for when we shift the footprint? I'm just trying to think of how far, what's the difference in
well, we went through.
Can you blow it up, Gunner, so that we can see, so we can drill down a little bit and see what we would be losing, or what the applicant would be losing?
Yes, I can. Is that better?
Not really. We were getting closer.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right, so this is the site plan as is. Again, we have a condition of approval to move all of these garages off of Parallel Parkway and elsewhere. I would imagine they'd probably just line them up over on the the western property line here. But that's, again, something we can figure out in the final plan. As it relates to the condition that the applicant is asking to be removed, we were specifically thinking that they could shift the whole building farther north. And we ran through the gamut with the applicant in a meeting previously where we said, remove it all and move the building all the way up to Parallel Parkway. There was a chance where you could design, for instance, a mountable curb to allow for fire trucks to drive on. It wouldn't be technically the circulation route, but it would be there for that circulation that fire requires to get around 360 degrees of the building. It would eliminate all the parking and the driveway on the north side of the building. There's a version where it's just the driveway on the building and no parking on either side. There's a version where it's one side of parking versus two. And I think the one that where the applicant would like us to land on is to be just to move the garage parking.
Well, I guess my follow-up question then would be, help me understand why we want the apartment to be butted up against Parallel instead of having the parking there for access to the tenants and all that. That's more my question of I'm just not understanding why we'd want this to be sitting right on Parallel Parkway.
Again, the multifamily design guidelines prioritize the pedestrian over the automobile. And this design prioritizes the automobile over the pedestrian. So addressing the street in a more pedestrian fashion is accomplished through multiple different ways. And I think that the applicant has done that, has done several of those, not just this one that would shift the entire site plan essentially. So the applicant, their architect have talked about this being, of the three, their most urban, their smallest site, first of all, smallest parcel, but also this is sort of the more urban apartment complex. And so, you walk up to an urban apartment complex, and granted, this is in a field and at the far end of the built environment, if you will, right on the agricultural rural transect with sort of the more suburban type development that you see around the legends. But again, to prioritize the pedestrian, we wanted to make sure that there was a pedestrian entrance essentially that was along Parallel Parkway. And so that's what we were thinking in terms of addressing the multifamily design guidelines. And we're sort of willing to work backwards with you on that one a little bit. But again, we do have a little bit of flexibility because there is a final plan to rough through some of these details. So as much as I don't think we should be designing this necessarily in the meeting, we certainly would like your direction and your input on whether you agree or disagree with that, or at least in this case, if what we've accomplished therein is good enough.
Okay, I have a follow-up question to Commissioner Miller. So with the garages being eliminated, are we saying by shifting the building further to the north that we would then lose that entire row of parking as well? So it completely goes away?
Again, you wouldn't lose it. It would just move to the southern end of the property. So I don't think
Well,
that
I'm sorry, we would lose it from this location.
Yes, it wouldn't impact.
So there would
total
only be one row of parking, and that would be the one up pointing toward the building, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
it could be either. I think it's just a matter of what your preferences are, based on the several scenarios that I mentioned that we walked through with them. We went through those scenarios in our meeting. They decided that they wanted to maintain the design as is. We later worked through moving these detached garages, which was, we think, a benefit towards the intentions of the multifamily design guidelines. If you wanted us, if this were to stay, we would work with them and try to figure out some different design solution, which you guys would see in the final plan.
I was going to say, is there a way to work it out where since the garages are going, and I think that's a positive because from an aesthetic to not have to look at the back end of garages abutting parallel, but if the existing parking lanes were still there, could the pedestrian walkways be accomplished through crosswalks and egress into those areas where there were several openings where there were crosswalks that allowed people to cross over between I guess the drive-through lane and then over to the other side where the existing sidewalks would be to the building?
I mean, they would probably want to maximize the amount of parking on that side. So if they were to, they'd probably want to if we were to remove a row, we'd probably remove this one. And as you can see in this site plan, the sidewalk is here, and then there's access along here, and then it kind of dead ends right here. So we had talked with them already, and again, we believe that there are other conditions of approval that are not being contested tonight that will allow us to make these changes. That specific change with the applicant, but for instance, we'd want to see a crosswalk. We wouldn't want to see the crosswalk end and then go into a drive lane that went into the back of a parked car, right? So we wanted clear distinction. This would be the most straight line from parallel to their main entrance here. If it wanted to come up here and then cross over, as long as, they'd have to get rid of a parking spot essentially to make this a crossing over here. Some way, shape, or form, they agreed to fix this in final plan in terms of the direct pedestrian connection. We're just saying that the building getting closer to parallel, removing the amount of stuff, if you will, in between that front door and the sidewalk on Parallel Parkway, would be more true to the urban nature of their proposed project as well as the multifamily design guidelines. So, but again, we've worked with and changed a couple of things on this project already, and we'll continue to do so into final plan. So I think that we're going to keep making improvements. We just want to know if you feel like it should be up against the street or not.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for staff? Follow-up clarifications? Commissioner Ernst.
So if we leave number 2 in, your intention, Gunner, is to and try and resolve this?
If you leave number 2, we would like to work with them on to improve the site plan moving into final plan stage. They also have the right to contest your recommendation at the Board of Commissioners, which is another potential path forward.
I'm not particularly excited about all of it moving to the street, the guidelines. On the other hand, I wouldn't want the end apartment when my parking was at the far side of the lot. So we need some sort of compromise.
Commissioner Miller.
I don't really need a clarification. I don't want to hold this thing up since we will see it back on plat, but as you've asked for our opinion on it, I'm probably going to vote for approval on no matter how the motion's given. But just in my opinion, this is in an area I know well. It's an area that across the street is a gas station and a liquor store. Besides that, I don't really see pedestrians walking down Parallel. To me, I mean, I like the idea and the concept of the urban apartment complex and how it works. If it were Rosedale, Strawberry Hill, some of these more inner city places, but to me, I think we're going to have more upset tenants for parking purposes than we are walkers in and out of this apartment complex. But I'm not going to hold it up. So.
Yeah, and Commissioner, I think that's where we're kind of at right now. It's a bit of a chicken and egg, right? It's a greenfield development on the edge, on the urban edge. So if we don't provide the facilities, no one's going to walk ever. If we do make them provide the facilities now, people might never walk until the rest of the surrounding uses kind of evolve. So that's why we wanted to talk to you guys about it, maybe, and put it in front of you. But thank you.
Definitely in favor of there being a sidewalk.
Right. Yeah. No, the sidewalk's going to be there, but right now it's a sidewalk just at the length of their property, for instance. Right. So.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion. I will need one first on the master plan, then we'll do change of zone, and then the final plat or the preliminary plat.
And if you wanted to change the condition, it would be on the change of zone specifically. Is that right?
Did the applicant talk one more time?
That wouldn't be on the plat.
Wouldn't be on the plat. It'd be the change of zone.
Change of zone. Okay. Thank you. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion on the master plan, amendment.
Chair Carson, I don't, Mr. Haymond, I think unmute himself for a minute. I didn't hear what he said, but I don't know if he tried to say something.
Well, at this point, we're done with that portion of it. So unless you have a clarification or something you need from Mr. Haymond.
I do not. I'll move to approve the master plan amendment.
Okay, subject to the staff stipulations.
Second.
Okay, that was motion to approve was made by Commissioner Miller, and I'm sorry, who was the second?
Nathan.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Reasons. Any discussion on motion for approval? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong. Aye. Ernst.
Aye.
Ewing.
Aye.
Miller.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Moeller.
Aye.
Pauly.
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of the master plan amendment MP-2020-4 passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Now I'll need a motion on the change of zone, and if there is going to be a change made to the stipulation, it would be on this motion.
I'll move to approve, subject to, I would like to remove stipulation number 2, but subject to the rest of the stipulations in the staff report.
Okay, motion is made for approval, subject to the removal of stipulation number 2 from the conditions of approval. Is that correct? Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Discussion on motion for approval with stipulation 2 of the conditions of approval being removed. Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong. Aye. Ernst.
Nay.
Ewing.
Aye.
Miller. Moeller.
Aye.
Pauly.
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of change of zone application 3223 with the removal of stipulation number 2 passes 6 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thank you. And now I'll entertain a motion on the preliminary plat.
Move to approve the preliminary plat subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Pauly. Any discussion on preliminary plat approval?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear who made the second.
It was Commissioner Pauly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller, Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Pauly was an aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve the preliminary plat, subject to the stipulations, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, thank you. This will be heard once again on December 3rd before the Board of Commissioners at 7 p.m.
Mr. Chairman, we have 2 applications we're going to hear together, and then we will vote on them separately. Change of zone application number 3229, Chase Thompson. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agriculture District for agricultural purposes at 1959 South 51st Street. And change of zone application 3230, Chase Thompson. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agriculture District for gardening, raising flocks, pond, and growing trees at 2025 South 51st Street. Please include the following items as part of the record for these cases: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the testimony at the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting earlier this evening, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to these applications?
No. Mr. Thompson, if you're still on the call, I need you to raise your hand so I could recognize you. Mr. Thompson. Okay, Janet, it doesn't appear that he is on the call at this point. Can we go ahead and put this to the end of the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I do not see him on the call.
Let's go ahead and move it to the end of the agenda as we've done in the past, and then we'll come back to it.
Okay. The next application is change of zone 3238, Neil Daisy and Lauren Tweedy. Change of zone from M2 General Industrial District to R2B 2 Family District for an existing home at 809 Southwest Boulevard. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No. Okay, Mr. Daisy and Ms. Tweedy, I have you both ready to speak. If you go ahead, please unmute yourself, give us your name and address, please, and tell us about your project.
Okay, this is Lauren Tweedy. Our address is 809 Southwest Boulevard. Neil might not pop in, so I'll cover this.
Here.
Oh, you are? Okay. Okay, so we have been living at 809 Southwest Boulevard for 7 years as tenants, and we just purchased the home from our landlord. And during the purchase, our loan company seemed to be concerned about the industrial zoning, just in terms of if something were to happen down the line, possible rebuilding and how that would interfere. So Basically, we just want to do the change of zone to avoid any complications in the future should they arise. Another house on our block rezoned in 2018, and our neighbors, Mike and Christine, I believe, are next on the agenda, and they are rezoning too, just to avoid any potential hiccups with the zoning down the line. The house was built in 1910. It's always been a house, and we intend to live here. We're not flipping it or anything. We are fixing it up, but it's our home, and we love Rosedale. So that's basically what we're after.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Is there any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we'll open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Mr. Coons, if you go ahead and give us your name and address, please.
Hi, Michael Coons, 815 Southwest Boulevard. I've lived here for almost 20 years now, and we kind of knew about this issue when we bought the house in 2001, but we didn't. It was at a time when they were less stringent about loans, so it wasn't seen as an issue. But when our neighbor had it come up, they had to get it rezoned to be able to sell the house, and so we certainly would like to get this done. And we're, again, on a residential house, and we'd like to keep the, character of the neighborhood residential. So.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Not seeing anyone else from the public that would like to speak, so we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. As the applicant said, this is an existing single-family home. It's been that way since the get-go. There has been some folks to issue letters or notes of support, including what we've heard. Additionally, there's been a history of NOVs, notice of violations, on this site, but we've worked with the applicant, and they had noted that those had all been cleaned up previously prior to this application. I will make the note that the land use category for this parcel in the Rosedale area master plan is mixed use, and the existing use is much closer than an industrial zoning ever would be. So we recommend approval.
Okay, questions for Director Hand? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Muller, seconded by Commissioner Huey. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion to recommend approval of change of zone application 3238, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again on December 3rd at 7 p.m. before the Board of County Commissioners.
Our next application is change of zone 3239, Michael Coons, change of zone from M2 General Industrial District to R2B 2-Family District for an existing home at 812 Southwest Boulevard. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. This time, does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No. Okay, Mr. Coons, I've got you queued up. If you could, please go ahead. Once again, give us your name and address and tell us about your project.
So again, Michael Coons, 815 Southwest Boulevard. We've lived here for 20 years, and It's an industrial street, but it's a house was built in 1918, and so it's been continually owned as a house since then, and that's what we continue to keep it at.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I'll open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request?
We just got done addressing 809 Southwest Boulevard. I am Mike and Chrissy's neighbor. And
Could you go ahead and give us your name and address, please, Mr. Daisy?
Sure. My name is Neil Daisy at 809 Southwest Boulevard. I've been here for 7 years and have been not only inspired by Mike and Chrissy's home and yard, but they have really turned Rosedale into a neighborhood for me. So I would love to continue living on this block with 3 historic homes, and I cherish Mike and Chrissy as neighbors.
Good, thank you. Anyone else in the audience want to speak? Anyone else in the audience want to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comment.
Hey, Mr. Chair, again, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Very similar, in fact, right adjacent to the previous change of zone. Same thing, existing single-family home. We believe that it better conforms to the master plan land use designation of mixed use versus an M1 zone. So we recommend approval.
Thank you. Any questions for the director? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Mueller, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of change of zone application 3239, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again on December 3rd at 7 p.m. before the Board of County Commissioners.
We have 2 applications that we're going to hear together, and then we will vote on them separately. Change of zone application 3240, Andrea Weishoff with Atlas Surveyors, change of zone from AG Agriculture District to R1 Single Family District for a single family subdivision at 2951 North 115th Street. And we're going to hear the corresponding preliminary plat, Villas of Piper Valley, preliminary plat for 64 single family lots. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to these applications?
No. Okay, Ms. Westhoff, are you available? Or is there anyone here on behalf of Atlas Surveyor? Okay, I see a Galaxy Note 20. Could you please go ahead and give us your name and address, please?
I'm sorry. Yes, this is Andrea Wishup with Atlas Surveyors. 2300 Hutton Road, Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay, go ahead and tell us about your project, please.
Well, this is while this is a 64 lot subdivision, it's rather straightforward and simple. Just trying to create basically just a 64 lot subdivision there in the Piper area.
Can you give us any indication what type of homes you're planning on building? There's been some discussion. These were, I'm sorry.
Yes, these are all going to be single family residences within this area. Typically, this is going to be a 55 and older community. and change of zone, obviously, to go along with this.
Okay, so this is going to be a 55 and over community.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Other questions for the applicant? Will your restrictions, deed restrictions and things like that indicate the 55 and over restriction?
Yeah, I believe that that will be in the HOA portion of the subdivision.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for the applicant? I'm sorry, let's see. Okay, seeing none, I will open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? I see a Jason Rakoski. Well, I saw him. Hand went away. Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request, this application? Okay, I'm now not seeing anyone. I will close the public portion of the meeting. Go to Director Hand for his comment. Director Hand.
Sorry about that. I lost you there for a second.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. We had a crash at the end of the day, so things have been flashing a little bit on my screen here.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Again, yeah, this is for 60 family, single family lots. It is a change of zone as well from AG to R1. If you can see kind of in this aerial of the zoning map, there's an existing single family home on the property. That's basically going to get parceled out, but also changed to R1 because it will no longer be the 5 acres required to remain AG. You also see that there's an existing parcel north on Leavenworth, so it was not able to connect through to Leavenworth. It does connect to the subdivision to the south, Piper Landing, I believe it is called, off of North 141st Street. So you can sort of see here, it will make this connection dead end at that single family here, but also come around and have an entrance off of 115th as well. We did, as part of the conditions of approval, talk about a buffer along the eastern edge. Along the eastern edge of this parcel, you can see here is a vineyard. So we thought potentially adding some buffer between the two, in addition to those are all sort of facing the rear yards towards that property. So we talked a little bit about a buffer and a condition approval there. We did talk about a sidewalk connection to continue the existing sidewalk system in Piper Landing up and through this new subdivision. We saw heard no opposition to date, have heard no NOVs, had no NOVs on the property. We did note as one of the conditions of approval that the way that it is currently drawn in the preliminary plat, that it would it does not meet the frontage requirements of the R1 zone. So they're gonna have to go back in there and change it. It'll probably reduce the amount of total lots from 64 to something else. I'm gonna guess 62, maybe a little bit less, but that shouldn't impact the noticing requirements. So we went ahead and moved forward with this to get the changes zone going. They can always come back in the final plat with the updated numbers. If it does reach a certain threshold, they might have to go through preliminary plat again, but we don't think it's going to happen. So we'll let you know if that does happen. It'll come back through. Otherwise, we recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back to the public for just a moment. Mr. Peck, I've seen your hand go up and down. Is there something you'd like to say?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I was trying to clarify with our co-applicants, the Rakowskis, who wanted to speak, but we wanted to clarify that this is
Mr. Peck, who are you? And
oh, sorry.
And what's your address and what's your connection?
Peck, I'm sorry. Steve Peck, 500 Stonehenge Boulevard, Dublin, Ohio. And I'm with Epcon Communities, which will be the product that's built in this neighborhood if everything moves forward as planned. We are empty nester market age targeted product. It's all 2-bedroom, 2-bath ranches on the first floor. But we typically don't age restrict through the HOA documents, and that's why I wanted to clarify. But we are 55 plus age targeted, but it's not age restricted. So I just wanted to clarify that point from earlier.
So it's simply just a normal subdivision. There is no age restriction to purchase in.
That is correct. But our product's all geared towards the 55 plus market, but it's not technically restricted through HOA documents.
Okay. Is that all you need to say, sir?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to clarify.
All right, Mr. Finger, I also have your hand up. Josh Finger?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Josh Finger at 11305 Leavenworth Road. I would also just like to, buffer was recommended near the vineyard. I wanted to see if it would be possible to include a buffer near my property. We have had drainage issues on the property in the past. When we purchased the home 3 years ago, it was indicated that when the property was developed that there would be a cul-de-sac and that the backyards of the homes along the cul-de-sac would butt up to our property. Obviously, that's not how it's drawn out right now. So I'm just concerned about drainage issues onto our property.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, but I'm going to go back to Director Hand. Can you address any type of drainage issues out there, Director Hand, with regard to the property owner at 113th and Leavenworth Road?
Mr. Finger, oh, okay, you're the property to the north along Leavenworth Road, Mr. Finger.
113.
Yes, 11305 Leavenworth.
We had a Mr. Wrist, we'd get a whole appendage on this call.
I've heard all the jokes.
You and me both. Mr. Tangira, can you please address the grading as it relates to Mr. Finger's property?
Okay, thank you, Ghana. Thank you, Chair. Martin Tangira, Planning Engineering. So far, we've been working with the engineer for this project to address some of the storm drainage issues. We've not really come up with a final grading plan, but we had asked for a berm to be put around the north cul-de-sac and a kind of a swale so that we have all the drainage going south to the proposed detention area. I don't know if that.
So before anything's approved, a final engineering and drainage plan will have to be submitted and approved, correct, by the engineering department?
Correct, that's what exactly correct.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments, Director Hand, before I go to the commission for questions?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the director or for engineering? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion. I will need two. First off will be change of zone and then the preliminary plat.
Move to approve the change of zone subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion on the change of zone approval? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauling,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of the change of zone application subject to the conditions in the staff report passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, now I'll entertain a motion on the preliminary plat.
Motion to approve subject to staff stipulation.
Second.
Sorry, that was made by, motion to approve was made by Commissioner Pauly, seconded by, I believe, Commissioner Miller. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Chairman,
I'm
who
sorry.
made the second?
I believe it was Commissioner Miller. Is that correct? Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no discussion, roll call please on the motion to approve the preliminary plat.
Armstrong, Aye. Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mulder,
Aye.
Polly,
Aye.
Oh, thank you.
and Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve the preliminary plat, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again on December 3rd at 7 p.m. before the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, we're now going to move on to the special use permit applications. And the first one is special use permit SP-2020-51, Diego Toto with XM Automotive. Renewal of a special use permit for an automotive repair business at 4439 Shawnee Road. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
Yeah. And Mr. Toto, I have you queued up to speak. If you go ahead, please give us your name and address and tell us about your project here.
Diego Toto, 4439 Shawnee Drive, Kansas City, Kansas, 66106.
Okay. Tell us what you'd like to do.
Well, we submitted a hand-drawn map of what they were asking us, and one of the persons that's in charge of this requested a drawing, but he requested with the stamp of an architect, which that was like 2 months ago. And my landlord has been trying to contact an architect, which he hasn't been able to. The closest one was 60 days out, at least. Last week, he was able to find somebody that was willing to do it sooner than that. But right now, like, to be honest, my landlord, he's out of town. We initially thought that this meeting was on a Tuesday when he's coming back tomorrow morning. So that's all I have right now. The last thing is that we were having issues finding an architect to do it sooner than the 60 days out.
So Mr. Toto, would you prefer us to hear your request and make a determination on it right now, or would you rather have the necessary information put together from your landlord and request a holdover? And
I would like to get a hold open, get a extension, and then my landlord will be back tomorrow. And as far as I know, he found somebody to help us with he found an architect that's willing to help us to get it done sooner. So if I can get some more time, I know it's been a few months, but with the COVID going back and forth through email, that's what's holding off, I think.
Okay, but your landlord does understand that what happens is if the information doesn't get together and get to the staff and we don't get something worked out before it comes back before us and we deny your application, that you have to cease your business operations?
Yes, he knows that, and he's willing to work with we've been trying last time it was approved, he's willing to work with the request that we're getting.
But he's not been willing to work with staff in the last 6 months. So do you see that changing if we give him another 60 days?
Yes, I think so.
Unfortunately for you, if he doesn't comply or if he doesn't get his act together, our only choice is to take it out on you, and that shuts down your business. So do you think you have a good enough relationship with him to make sure that this gets done so that we can move forward with your case?
Yes, I do. And with an architect now helping us get it done, I think we can come come up with something and work to get it done.
And given what the staff stipulations are in the report, you understand what needs to be done to make this property compliant. Your landlord understands that as well, is willing to do those things.
Last time I talked to him, he was willing to work that.
Okay, all right. Well, I just want to make sure that you understand, because unfortunately, it's going to impact you the worst if for some reason your landlord doesn't follow through.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we hate to take that kind of action, and you're kind of the innocent bystander here. So, okay, so you're asking for a motion to hold over. I am going to give audience members a chance to speak. Is there anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? I'm not seeing anyone in the audience that wants to speak, so I'm going to close the public portion of the meeting. I'm going to go to Director Hand and discuss the possibility of a 60-day holdover.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar, Director of Planning. I apologize. I had to stop sharing our screen as a part of the blow up that happened at the end of the day today. We've lost our slideshow for the rest of the hearing. So I'm going to try to bring them up one at a time. But for this one in particular, again, this application had been with us since for about the last 6 months, since the summer. After repeated attempts to get the applicant to respond to our requests, it wasn't until sort of recently, when we had mentioned that we were going to move it forward, recommend denial, that we had any movement on the case. So we would be supportive of an extension to allow them to respond to our comments, our initial comments or history of comments, and move this case forward. As you all recall, this is one of those uses that in 2015 had a revision by the Board of Commissioners within the zoning code to apply all kinds of standards to these types of heavy automotive uses. And that is the changes that we're looking for as a part of this renewal process. So we would be in agreement with the continuance.
Okay, thank you. Questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
Move to hold over for 60 days.
Excuse me 1 second, Commissioner Ernst.
I'll second motion.
Okay, did you have a question beforehand that I missed? I apologize.
No, I was going to make a motion, but I wasn't quick enough.
Oh, okay. So the motion was made by who now? Now I've lost it. I'm trying to.
I made the motion for 60 days because it sounded like that's what we needed, but I'll make it for 30 if we need less. I just felt like it sounded like we needed it for 60.
I believe that's what was requested from the applicant. So if that stands, Commissioner Ernst, is your second to a holdover for 60 days still applicable?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So motion been made and seconded to hold over for 60 days. Any discussion on motion to hold over? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Ernst?
Aye.
Ewing?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Moeller?
Aye.
Pauly? Reasons?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to hold over this application until the January 11, 2021 meeting passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Toto, it kind of becomes incumbent upon you to get a hold of your landlord and try to push this thing forward. And we'll see you again in 60 days.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
We have 2 applications that we're going to hear together and then vote on separately. Special use permit application SP-2020-72, Range 23 Brewing. Special use permit for a microbrewery at 13400 Donahue Road. And special use permit application SP-2020-73, Bill and Mary Basler. Special use permit for an event space with live entertainment at 13400 Donahue Road. Please include the following items as part of the record for these cases: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, The city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the testimony at the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting earlier this evening, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. At this time, does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to these two cases?
No. Okay, Mr. Shotanis and Mrs. Shotanis, I have you both queued up to speak. If you go ahead, please give us your name and address, and again, tell us about this project.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Thanks for everybody's time and attention. Nate Shotanis, 11240 Lakeview Drive, KCK. So as we mentioned earlier, we required a variance from the paved parking in order for the special use permit to go forward for the microbrewery. As well as the microbrewery at that building, the ranch also operates an event space. And both those special use permits would need to be approved for both businesses to go forth. Like we mentioned about the paved parking, which passed with approval, the brewery will be in a corner of the building that we see on the screen there, and it will be a production only facility for customers to pick up and take with them for consumption off premises. The event space, Bill and Mary Basler, I believe, are on, and they can talk to as well. We have all the, we've addressed the concerns from staff and our responses as well, and we look forward to the approval.
Okay, I'm not seeing Mr. and Mrs. Basler on the call unless they're under a different name.
Okay. When we talked with staff, I knew they were on earlier, or at least they were going to be. When we talked with staff earlier, we've kind of been the point of contact, and we discussed that with staff, and they had a conversation with Bill that they were in agreement with that. So if they're not on, I believe we have the ability to speak for them as best we can.
Okay, questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I will open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Please raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone in the audience that wants to speak, so I will close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for comments on both of these petitions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. So for the first one, as it relates to the brewery, again, these are all connected with the Boza case 2400 that we heard earlier at the previous meeting. Essentially, we just carried over those same conditions over to both of these special use permits. For the microbrewery, we're recommending approval for 2 years.
Okay, and just speaking to the landscape buffer I'm sorry, what stipulation was it? Number 6, that is a requirement, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because I know there was some mention of working things out with the neighboring property owner, but it is a requirement regardless of what the neighboring property owner has to say. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the director? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion on SP 2020-72.
Approved, subject to staff stipulations. Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Pauly, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Ernst?
Aye.
Yuli?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Moeller?
Aye.
Pauly?
Aye.
Reasons?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion to recommend approval of special use permit SP-2020-72, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Okay, thank you. This will be heard once again on December 3rd at 7 p.m. before the Board of County Commissioners. I'll now entertain a motion on SP 2020-73, special use permit for the event space with live entertainment at the same address.
Move to approve subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Burns,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of SP-2020-73, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. This also will be heard on December 3rd, 7 p.m. before the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you.
Our next application is special use permit SP-2020-88, Paul Ridgway, special use permit for a personal trainer at 419 Armstrong Avenue. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. At this time, does any member of the commission have any contacts disclosed with regard to this application?
No. Okay, Mr. Ridgway, I had him queued up to speak, but it looks like he's disappeared.
No, I'm here. I'm right here. Yo, yo, yo.
I hear you. Hold on just a second. I just got to find you. Okay, go ahead, please. Give me your name and address and tell us about your project.
Hi, my name is Paul Ridgway. I live at 419 Armstrong Avenue. I'm just trying to, I have a deck on the back porch. I'm just going to tear that old deck down and replace it with a 2-car garage, put a deck on top of it, and do personal training out of the garage. I've been doing personal training downtown in KCMO for about 10 years, and it's just time to move it into my house, stop paying rent, and start just doing it at home.
Okay, so nothing will, you haven't started yet, is that correct?
No, no.
And you won't be doing any training until the new structure is built, correct?
Not until the new structure is built, yeah.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I will open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak tonight in favor of or in opposition to the request? I have a Kim Messmer that would like to speak. Ms. Messmer, if you go ahead and give us your name and address and your testimony.
This is actually Mr. Messmer, Kim
Okay.
Messmer's husband. My name is Simon Messmer. I live at 706 North 5th Street, just around the corner from Paul. I am here to speak in favor of his proposal. Paul is a really good member, or really good neighbor. He's a really good community member. He's an excellent physical trainer. And this business that he proposes would be valuable to the neighborhood, and it would be unique here.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to? I have a Mr. I'm sorry, I'm going to pronounce it incorrectly. Is it Gefeller or Feller?
Gefeller is right.
Gefeller, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Go ahead and give us your name and address, please.
My name is David Gefeller. I am at 423 Armstrong, so I'm Paul's immediate neighbor to the west. And I also would like to speak in favor. Yep, he's a great guy, great neighbor. I think it would be just fine.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand and get his comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. So we, again, this is for personal training in a single family home, single family zone. There is no off-street parking. So for that reason, we worked with the applicant and they actually offered up that it would be one client at a time. And typically with these types of uses, we like to secure off-street parking, but I think it's just the topography of the street. So there's no off-street access from the actual alleyway on the back. So he's building a garage, but he's not able to get any off-street parking for the client. We did condition approval based on the what was just discussed, which is no clients could be had at the site until the new structure was built and you could have those classes inside the accessory structure. With those conditions, we recommend approval.
Any questions for the director? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Huey, seconded by Commissioner Mueller. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Polly, Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of SP-2020-88, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Ridgway. This will be heard once again on December 3rd at 7 p.m. before the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next application is special use permit SP-2020-92. Trevor and Elizabeth Ross, special use permit for farm animals, chickens, goats, and cows at 1700 South 38th Street. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application, other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No. Mr. or Mrs. Ross, or Mr. Ross, I've got you queued up to speak. If you go ahead, please give us your name and address, please, and tell us about your project.
Yes, my name is Trevor Ross, and I'm at, my residence is 5219 Barton Drive, Shawnee, Kansas, 66203. The property where we're requesting for the special use permit is actually our neighbor's mother's home resident. And we have, it's at 1700 South 38th Street, Kansas City, Kansas. Currently, we do have some livestock there. In the past, we've been able to raise chickens and put them in, butcher them, put them in our fridge or our freezer, and then same way with beef. And our neighbor also has been able to benefit from it because he's also purchased livestock, and we've helped raise them up so that they can be able to consume them for their own personal use. Our overall goal is to condition the soil to help it to replenish, create new topsoil. We've also put in a fairly large garden. So in the wintertime, that's where we keep the animals at so that they can refertilize the soil. We use the chickens to help maintain and to control fly larvae and pests of that sort. They'll also help to break up the animal waste so that it may be able to be absorbed into the soil quicker rather than running off with rain and such. The cows do not, where the creek area lies is in the woods, and so we do not use that area for them. They're probably approximately 60 feet or so from there. We have had the goats over in that area to help maintain and clean up the brush so that it's more manageable for us to get in there and to help clean it up. We I guess that's really about all that I have. I guess if you guys have any questions.
Okay, let's find out. Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Ernst?
Record, how we got so far past the expiration date. And I've got two different ones and maybe Gunnar.
So
I've got a November, or was it January that it expired?
I believe it was in January.
Why did it take so long to get it back in front of us?
We lost track of time, and then we ended up getting contacted by Jacob back in, I believe it was April. And at that time was whenever COVID had hit. And so we were trying to get the paperwork lined out so that we could get it refiled and taken care of. And we ended up having some hiccups with the website on getting it downloaded and sent to us. I'm not trying to make really any excuses. We just forgot. The time got away from us so that we could renew the application. Is essentially
that is a fair answer. And I think we have your attention enough that next time it comes due, you can do it in a more timely fashion.
Yes, sir.
It's kind of hard to hide those cows and goats if we don't get it done right the next time, right?
Yes, sir.
People in Shawnee frown on them in your front lawn.
Yeah, they might. We're not trying to, be a sleight of hand with it or anything like that. We're trying to be honest and upfront about it. And we do want to, make sure that we're doing everything properly.
Sure, we understand time gets away sometimes. Commissioner Reasons.
Yeah, I have a question. A couple of questions. This one is, how big is your lot again? Is it only 4.5 acres? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how much of that is actual pasture land that the cows can actually roam in? How many acres?
I would estimate it to be 3.5 acres.
Okay. I do have a little bit of a concern because it actually, when I'm looking at the aerial map, it looks like we got more woods than actual pasture land on your property. And you've got 4 goats as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No more than 4 though?
No more than 4.
Okay. I'd have to double check, but I believe agriculture states that for large animals, you need an acre per large animal to sustain them properly. And I'm concerned with having that many cows on 4 acres. I have a 10-acre piece of property with some horses. And if you don't let them run, it's going to be a big mud pit right in a neighborhood. And how long have you had those cows there in years past? 'Cause I'm just looking at your pictures that you have here.
So one of the things that we're doing is we're kind of following Joel Salatin.
Yep.
So he does rotational grazing.
Understand.
And so we set up a paddock system and move it daily so that the pasture is able to have rest for over 30 days, and that'll help with the pest. We've had, I think we acquired 2 heifers that were about 350 pounds the first spring that we were able to, when we got approved. And we had those on there for about a year, and then we put them off to the butcher shop and had those processed. And then we had acquired 2 bottle babies, and we actually raised those up. And we were going to butcher another one this spring, but we found out she was pregnant and ended up having a calf right at the time of our processing date. The way COVID went is the slaughterhouses were booked up a year out within a matter of a month or 2.
Understand.
So our goal is to butcher one as soon as possible. Our neighbor is, depending on how this all goes, is wanting to purchase one to butcher it. We're not trying to maintain 4 cows on the property at one time. It's just kind of where we're at right now. We actually right now we have 3 of them that are approximately 2.5 years old, 2 years old, something like that. And then the calf that just was born in June. But we have been doing the rotational grazing, and then we also do mineral and well, like this spring in June, we ended up having that drought, so we actually had to start feeding little hay sooner than we wanted to, which that helped to recover the grass so that it could get ahead of the cows again. But we do hay supplement and feed supplement as well as rotational grazing.
Okay. And your chickens, how many chickens do you have?
Right now we have about 30. And when we first done it, we were doing meat birds.
So were you doing them in the 10 by 10 cages if you're doing the Salazar? Okay.
Yeah, and we were moving those daily also. And so we still are. Right now we've moved from the meat birds to a they call it a light Brahma, which they are a cross between a layer and a meat bird. So once they get to the point of egg production, cutting back, we'll start processing them.
Cool.
So
Well, I appreciate you telling me. When you told me Joel Salazar, I knew exactly what you're talking about, and I know you actually care about the property, and it's not just doing. So that is, I follow him as well, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So that's a plus, and congratulations on doing that. And no, that you answered all the questions. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for the applicant? I appreciate learning the term rotational grazing. Now I can tell my wife when I move from the pantry to the refrigerator, back to the pantry, back to the refrigerator, I can tell her I'm doing rotational grazing. So I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Not seeing anyone in the audience that wants to speak, so we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comment.
Hey, Mr. Chair, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Again, this special use permit is requesting 4 goats, 4 cows, 30 chickens. It is a renewal of a previous SUP. The applicant has requested 5 years. There have been no opposition to this case. There's been no NOVs over the history of the last 2 years. We did look closely at the Conservation District's comments, and we added them both to the report, but also specifically as a part of our summarized conditions of approval as it relates to maintaining ground cover, as well as keeping the site as free as possible of manure. So having some sort of manure plan associated with the typically a little bit smaller parcel than what an AG lot would be. And so with those conditions of approval, we recommend approval for 5 years.
Questions for Director Hand? Seeing none, I will stand for motion. Commissioner Reasons?
Yes, a motion to approve for staff stipulations.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Reasons, seconded by Commissioner Mueller. Any discussion? And this is for 5 years, correct, Commissioner Reasons?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Seeing no discussion, roll call, please.
Chairman, just for a point of clarification, the expiration date on the prior special use permit was January 2nd, 2020 of this year.
All right, thank you, Janet.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Ernst?
Aye.
Huey?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Moeller?
Aye.
Pauly?
Aye.
Reasons?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of this special use permit for 5 years, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. This will be heard once again on December 3rd at 7 p.m. before the Board of Commissioners.
Thank you very much.
Our next special use permit is SP-2020-94, Doug Clemens with USD 500. Special use permit for a staff parking lot at John Fisk Elementary School at 616 South Valley Street. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, The staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
No.
Good evening, Mr. Clements. I've got you queued up.
Mr. Carson, good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'll answer the question before somebody asks. This one, we missed the deadline way back in January because I'm a knucklehead, frankly. Forgot that it was approved on a special use permit a couple of years ago. We actually acquired this property from the UG to have an auxiliary parking lot for John Fisk Elementary. You know, the parking situation there is pretty tight. So we built it per all the various city codes and comments at that time, with the fence and the columns bordering the residential areas. There's been no changes to that. So just asking for this to be approved again. I would ask, you know, like I said, I didn't even remember that we had gotten this approved. I think it was required we got it approved as a special use permit. It's a fairly permanent installation. And if I have to come back through a different process through the development department, I can sure do that. But I wonder if it's possible to get this so it's not under a special use permit.
Okay, so we'll get to that in just a second. So I don't think we're going to need a motion on whether or not you're a knucklehead or not. You've acknowledged that, so we're going to go ahead and just go with that. But I will ask for any questions of Mr. Clements. Seeing none, I will open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request tonight? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Hand, Department of Planning and Urban Design. Again, this is for an existing surface parking lot associated with John Fisk Elementary School in the Armourdale neighborhood. It was built to standards as we have would have required elsewhere. So there's no changes or updates to be made. We essentially carried over the existing conditions of approval. Previously, I believe it was approved for 2 years, and so as goes the case, we're recommending approval for 5 years with the conditions.
Is there any comment on Mr. Clements' request about getting it removed or taken care of so we don't have to come back in 5 years and do this again?
Yes. So the current zoning is R2B. This is deeper into.
Oh, I don't want to know how to do it. I just want you to get with him afterwards and figure it out. I just want you to answer his question and then you can work it out with him. But in the interest of time, I don't want to know how to do it.
Yeah, it'd be a change of zone, and I'm not sure we would recommend a change zone in the middle to a commercial district inside the middle of a single family neighborhood. So I'd probably want to keep moving forward with the SUP. But again, we are extending it from 2 to 5, so you won't be back for another 5 years.
And I do appreciate it. And I think that was the reason that was provided the previous time. So thank you very much for that.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the director?
I have one. Not for me, but for the client, for the applicant.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Clements, we're still looking forward to getting in contact with the principal of John Fisk Elementary as it relates to our Armourdale area master plan. Just to remind.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you.
Any help would be much appreciated.
You bet.
Any other questions for Director Hand? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Move to approve subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Miller. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Mueller. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Ernst?
Aye.
Yui?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Aye.
Moeller? Polly?
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of SP-2020-94 for 5 years, subject to the conditions in the staff report. Passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. Mr. Clemens, this will be heard once again December 3rd, 7 p.m. before the Board of Commissioners.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Our next special use permit is SP-2020-95, Trent Gaddy. Special use permit to allow the receiving of inventory at the dock, storage within the building interior, and shipping at 1223 Meadowlark Lane. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application of the documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gaddy, if you please go ahead and unmute yourself. Give us your name and address, please, for the record.
Hi, good evening. My name is Trent Gaddy. My personal address is 7801 West 52nd Street, Mission, Kansas, zip code 66202. I haven't seen any of my predecessors share PowerPoints. I had prepared one. I didn't know if that's possible for me to share my screen.
Mr. Chairman, I can move him to a panelist.
Thank you.
And he can share his screen.
Thank you.
Give me just a second.
I tend to talk a lot, and I know that a picture can be worth 1,000 words, so I thought.
And we're very visual.
Okay, you should be able to share now.
Are you able to share, Mr. Gaddy? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Mr. Gaddy.
Let me see here.
Is it not allowing you to share? We've had some technical issues this evening. There we go.
Can you see that? Okay.
There we go. Can now.
Okay, so unfortunately, my father-in-law was not able to join us tonight. He's been diagnosed with COVID-19 and has been really struggling. Gary has been with the company for 46 years. He's Jules Burrell's grandson, and like I say, he's the current president. I am the general manager. I've been with the corporation for 6 years. I'm married to Jules Burrell's great-granddaughter, and I'm Gary Burrell's son-in-law. So to give you guys a little bit of history about our company and origins, Jules Burrell, who was our founder, was born in Switzerland in 1884. He married his wife Juliet in 1910. They had 6 children, and at the time, Jules worked in Switzerland as a material man. Now, a material man is not a watchmaker, but they're very well versed in watch parts, and they pick watch part orders for watchmakers to work on watches. In 1917, he immigrated to the United States. It was the very cliche American dream. He had less than $500 cash with him. He had a suitcase full of watch parts, and he had a family of 7. The pictures you see aren't pulled off the web. That's the actual manifest and ship they sailed over on. From 1917 to 1920, him and his entire family traveled around the United States in a Model T selling watch parts out of that suitcase, and at night they would camp in a tent alongside the roads. In 1920, they decided to settle in Kansas City due to the fact that it was in the middle of the United States and it would make shipping more accessible. He began sending out letters to all of the contacts he had made over the 2 years of traveling, essentially saying, hey, I'm here, send me orders and cash, and I'll send you watch parts. Moving forward, All four of Jules Burrell's sons served during World War II. One of the sons was a member of the company prior to World War II, and then the other two came back and bought their way in afterwards. In 1958, we relocated to 1110 Graham Boulevard in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. We're still there now. At the time, Jules was really excited about the space and the square footage. So present day, there are currently 9 family members still with the company. 5 are from the 3rd generation, 4 from the 4th. And 2014 was kind of like a monumental year for us. It was the most family members we had at any given time. It was close to half. We had 14 family members working for the company. So who are we? So our goal is to be a one-stop shop for the watch industry. We're a wholesale distributor. We import all of our products in from primarily Switzerland, also some from Hong Kong, and then we redistribute them to watchmakers in the United States. Because of our origins and our history in the industry, we've been blessed to obtain a lot of exclusive rights to distribute products within the watch industry that you guys wouldn't know of, but are highly prestigious brands to be able to sell watchmakers. Our products are everything a watchmaker would need. We have about 800,000 unique part numbers. A lot of that is watch parts. A lot of those pieces are, you know, 1/16 of an inch. So we watch parts, batteries, tools to work on watches, cleaning supplies to clean them, equipment to evaluate them and if they're running at the correct time and if they're waterproof or not, and then even things like big equipment like watchmakers' benches. Our customer base ranges from small independent watchmakers working out of their house to a lot of exclusive deals with the major brands, including Rolex, Cartier, Omega, and many others. And we also do a lot with retail stores and chains. For example, we've got exclusive distribution rights for all the tools for Helzberg's Diamonds and then also Tiffany's and Co. We currently have 22 employees. Pre-COVID, that number normally sits between 25 to 30. Our regular operating hours are 8 in the morning to 5:30 at night, Monday through Friday. We're a mail order house only. All of our products ship out. There's no customer pickups at our facility. We have a UPS, USPS, and FedEx box truck pickup and delivery every day. And on average, once, sometimes twice a week, we'll have a freight either pickup or delivery. All of our business is conducted indoors. We wouldn't be contributing any kind of like noise, pollution, manufacturing, you know, anything of that kind of nature. And then to help kind of articulate what we're going for, when we say storing inventory, I think the initial thought is a huge, massive warehouse like Amazon that's dark and dingy and stuff like that. And that's not how we operate. It's essential for us, for the people that are on the phones taking orders, to be able to get up and move around, stretch their legs, pick orders, check to see if inventory is actually in stock or not. We have a lot of new old parts that predate World War I. And so I thought sharing some photos of our current office would benefit everybody. So here's some examples of our current layout. It shows how we've got products stored in the same areas where people are in either cubicles or desks working. Here's some more. Here's our shipping department on the right. 99% of everything that we keep in store are in containers that are about 4 inches tall by 6 inches wide and about 18 inches deep in these drawer systems that we designed and built custom ourselves. Larger tools items we store in racks like you see here. And then we have about a dozen of these larger racks that we have in the back part of our second floor where we store some even larger products. So to give you a little bit of an idea of the actual inventory, here's an example of some watch hands, for instance, to give you some context of the size. You can obviously here's a set of drawers. If you look in, you can see each one of these represents a different SKU. And at any given SKU, there's probably 200-300 of that specific watch hand in the container. Here's some examples of watch crystals. Each one of these sleeves inside these drawers represents a different SKU. I think we have about 60,000 unique stock numbers for crystals, and we have stock anywhere ranging from 2 or 3 pieces up to probably 100 or 200 pieces per crystal stock number. A crystal is the part that goes on top of the watch to protect the dial and hands. And then obviously watch parts, which is, what started it all. We've got just tons and tons of watch parts. And like I said, a lot of them are very, very small, less than 1/16 of an inch. To give you an idea for size, these containers here you see on the right, they're about 1 inch in diameter. Here's some watch bands. We are an authorized distributor for batteries as well. We're authorized to distribute Energizer, Sony, and Renata batteries. We buy all those direct from the manufacturers. And then we also sell findings, which findings are components of jewelry and completed pieces of jewelry. So like on the right here, you'll see jump rings, which are gold. On the left, you'll see birthstone, precious gems. Here's some pictures of how we store a lot of our tools. Even our tools are small just because of the nature of our industry. It's a micro engineering industry. Here's some microscopes and magnifying glasses that we keep on back racks because they're too small to fit in our drawer systems. And then our larger equipment we keep in either pallets or boxes like you see on the right around the perimeter of our location. So our future plans, we hope to purchase 1223 Meadowlark Lane in KCK. Right now, it's entirely built out in office space. Here's the current floor plan. Our hope is to get the special use permit approved, and then we'll move forward with the contractor. We're looking at spending about $1 million in renovations for the building. A portion of that has to do with knocking out all these walls here you see on this east side of the building to give it an open concept for cubicles, and then our inventory around it. Here's a 3D version to kind of help wrap your mind around it. But within that $1 million, a lot of it, is also going to things like the building needs a new roof. It needs a new parking lot. It has no HVAC system whatsoever. It has a lot of water and mold damage because the building's been vacant for over 6 years. And yeah, that's about it. I apologize if that was like drinking from a fire hose. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Great, thank you. And what a great story. Makes me want to throw my iWatch away.
I'm very blessed to be a part of the company.
Yeah, it's just a great story, something you don't think about. It's truly a craftsman kind of business. So questions for the applicant? I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the public portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? We will first go to Mr. Watkins.
Thank you, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners and staff. I come in favor of this application. Been working recently with the Burrell Company through a couple of brokers in my office, but I come actually representing a couple of surrounding property owners. The property directly to the south I have for sale, Mr. Mohammed Haque, comes in support of this project, as well as the Dale brothers across the street at 4101 Powell. Both are highly supportive of what's going on here. And then I've got two other hats that I wear. I'm chairman of the Housing Authority, which we are spending about $3 million, about ready to cut the ribbon across the street for the new Housing Authority maintenance facility. I think the Burrell Company will be a complement to what we do across the street from the Housing Authority. I'm not authorized to speak on behalf of the Housing Authority. I'm just merely giving you my own Matt Watkins opinion of what's going on here. But I do work in the area as a commercial realtor. I've actually had this building under contract multiple times for different clients, and I think it's the absolute right use for the building. As you'll see in the area, you've got USD 500 with the bus barn, as well as USD 500 with their food facility behind it, where the old bowling alley was. And I think this use will be a complement to the area. The revitalization in the area has probably seen 20 to 25, maybe in upwards of $30 million worth of revitalization. And I think the Burrell Company will be a great neighbor. So I stand in support and would fully recommend them as we move forward.
Thank you, Matt. I'll now go to Marcia Harrington. Marcia, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight before the Planning Commission. I come in support of the Jules Burrell project as well. I'm with the Wyandotte Economic Development Council, and we are housed out of 727 Minnesota in downtown KCK. I'm also a resident of Wyandotte County in Bonner Springs and live at 914 South 131st Street. I submitted a letter, memo for the Planning Commission packet, so I won't go over all of those points that I made, but I do want to speak to the SUP, the 2-year SUP that's being recommended by the planning staff, and would like to speak to if there could be an extension of that to 5 years, that would help the company out tremendously. We all know how quickly 2 years goes by. And when you have a company that has to purchase the building, make improvements to the building, move their company, and get operational, 2 years have basically gone by in that time frame. And then they would have to re-up their SUP again. So I would just like to speak in support of that. If the Planning Commission would consider moving it to a 5-year SUP, that would greatly help the company. And as you've seen from the slide presentation, this is a great company. This would be a real win for Wyandotte County to have a company like this and in this neighborhood. And there's value to a company moving into that building that is only going into decline, as we've heard. So having the building improved, employees in the neighborhood, having that activity, I think is a real plus for Kansas City, Kansas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Seeing no further public members wishing to speak, I'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just went ahead and started to share my screen again, and I'll just quickly walk through everybody through the slides again. Again, we're looking at sort of the Midtown area, just north of State Avenue on Meadowlark Lane. The applicant went through sort of their requested, what they intend to do with the property. And these are just a couple existing site photos. Again, it's been vacant for quite some time. There's a couple things we'd say about this project. It's currently zoned CPO, which is basically for office use straight up. Because this is kind of a hybrid use, they are seeking a special use permit. Now, the unfortunate truth is the use itself, as described and defined, is uniquely industrial, which is why when we were working with the applicant, we specifically, you'd heard from one of the people from the public requesting a little deeper level of certainty. Now, change the zone would certainly give you that certainty, but I don't think that this department staff could have recommended an industrial use because the uses specifically would have to fit in within M1 zone. Now, there's no M1 zoning anywhere near this. It just didn't fit correctly. So we worked with them to file this SUP. Now, SUPs for a temporary use of land, which this is requesting, specifically enumerated in the code, can only be for 2 years. I would defer to our legal counsel on an opinion on that, because as you know, there are other that have gone longer than for temporary uses that have gone a little bit longer than that. And so I think that's something we can certainly talk about. But the point we would make here is we would recommend approval with several conditions that we've worked with the applicant on, and he mentioned today, including site improvements. Again, they're expecting 1, potentially 2 semi-trucks to the location per week, where they then sort of unload, reassemble, store, and ship products. So it's inherently a different use than what CPO allows, and for that reason, it's a SUP. But we recommend approval, and we look forward to this business potentially moving to Kansas City, Kansas.
All right, thank you. Can we go ahead and get that opinion from legal counsel regarding a longer term?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Under 27-593, temporary uses of land, as Director Hand said, are limited to no more than 2 years. I don't know what the circumstances or why longer uses might have been allowed in the past, but I think this body, is bound by what the code says on that. That may be something that we can look at when we update the code as to whether there is a different category that something like this might fall under. But right now, I don't see an exception.
All right, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I would just add, we're in the process of updating our zoning code, and this is the exact reason why we're doing that. We are working to build a new zoning category that would match this type of, let's call it hybrid use. It's not really an M1 zone, right? There's too many other things that could be in an M1 zone that we wouldn't want at this location, but it's also not by definition a commercial use either. So we're working to create a hybrid. Our goal would be within 2 years. I mean, we're certainly going to update the zoning code between then and now. And so hopefully they won't need to come back for an SUP, because we will have rezoned them with the new zoning code to match the current use. So that's kind of that's the direction we're heading. Again, that's not a level of certainty that any business would want, because there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts in that statement. But we are at the tail end of updating our zoning code. That'll take a few months to go through the approval process, and they don't want to wait for that either. So this is what we recommended them to move forward with.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ernst.
Thank you, legal, for answering my 5-year question, and I understand that. And thank you, Director Hand, for the explanation of a special use permit that I had never seen before. And I think that's a very creative way to, and that's all I had.
All right. Other questions or comments for staff or legal? So Patrick, I guess I want to hear you say it again. There's not anything that we can do with this body as far as offering any type of extension to the 2-year term.
It's under subsection 28. It says which permit shall not be approved for more than 2 years. So I don't see how.
Okay. Thank you. I could ask you to repeat it again, but I guess your answer will be the same. Okay, any further questions for staff? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff stipulations.
Okay, motion to approve by Commissioner Mueller. Is there a second?
Second.
Saw the second by Commissioner Huey. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of SP-2020-95 for 2 years, subject to the conditions in the staff report. Passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Mr. Gaddy. This will be heard once again on December 3rd at 7 p.m. before the Board of Commissioners. And I do hope you know how much this body recognizes the importance of your story and your family's story, and we wish we could have done more for you tonight. But we wish you well, and we want to welcome you to our community.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, our next application is special use permit SP-2020-96. Brian Dink with McInerney, Van Cleve and Phillips. Renewal of a special use permit SP-2018-45, which expired on April 26, 2020, to allow tractor trailer truck parking at 7949 Split Log Avenue. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case: the city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this application?
No.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lowe, I'm assuming you're here on behalf of Mr. Dink.
I am. Thank you very much. So I'll try to keep this kind of brief and to the point.
Could you start off with your name, please, and address?
Absolutely. Sorry. So Spencer Lau. I am here with McInerney, Van Cleve and Phillips. Our address is 10 East Cambridge Circle Drive, Suite 300 in Kansas City, Kansas, 66103. And I'm here on behalf of the American Motel, which is at 7949 Split Log. I believe Ron White is here as well if he hasn't raised his hand, so he can help answer questions if they arise. This is a hotel that I think most people have probably seen from the highway and are pretty familiar with. On the southern end of the property, there's a pad for tractor trailer parking. A pretty substantial amount of the rooms at this hotel are used for over-the-road drivers. Most of these are brought in by a shuttle. So for the most part, these over-the-road drivers aren't all parking their tractor trailers on site. And we have several contracts with some nearby carriers that they can kind of bus them in and our parking is clear. But every night there's a few drivers who come in with their tractor trailer, and we like to provide parking for them. So we have been doing that for some time now. Back in 2018, there were some resident objections to this, and we put in a pretty nice fence all around this area and had a pretty involved process of bringing everything up to everyone's agreement. This year, we had a neighborhood meeting. No one showed up to that. We haven't heard any objections. We haven't heard any complaints, kind of even informally through the neighborhood. So things are going pretty well with this, and we're just looking for a renewal of this special use permit.
Okay, thank you. Mr. White, did you have anything you wanted to add? Ron White, did you have anything you wanted to add to the comments? Okay, seeing none, sorry, I saw the hand go back up. Mr. White, did you want to speak? All right, thank you.
No, I didn't have anything to add. I think he stated our purpose and our needs for the hotel.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant's representative? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request? Not seeing anyone from the public who wishes to speak, so we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for his comment.
Mr. Chair, Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. As the applicant stated, this SUP is for the storage parking of trailers, tractor trailers at the existing hotel use. we essentially just carried over all the existing conditions from the previous SUP. There'd been no opposition and no notice of violation on the property in that time. And so you'll see some of those existing conditions carry over as it regards to fencing, lighting, maintenance of the lot. But we recommend approval for 2 years.
Thank you. Any questions for the director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Wouldn't this also be the 5 years since they've already had a 2-year?
Director Hand.
It doesn't automatically go to 5 unless they request it or we see a need for it. It is a renewal, so it could, but let me just 1 second double check. I just want to confirm that this isn't a temporary use of land as well. I think it might be based on the zoning. 1 second. Yeah, it crosses over in the C1 lot, so it's a temporary use of land, so it can only be for 2 years.
Okay, Commissioner Mueller, that answer your question?
Yes, thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for the director? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Move to approve subject to the stipulations in the staff report.
Second.
Moved for approval by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Mueller. Any discussion on motion for approval for 2 years? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Ewing,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of this special use permit for 2 years, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again on December 3rd at 7 p.m. before the Board of Commissioners. Thank you both.
Mr. Chairman, our next application is Plan Review PR-2020-32, Aguardo Reyes with JP Morgan Chase. Final plan review requesting removal of the stipulation requiring the sidewalk extension from PR-2020-21 for the drive-up ATM in the parking lot at 10940 Parallel Parkway. Please include the following items as part of the record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated November 9, 2020, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant in furtherance of the case and contained in the official file, and the notices to property owners. Does any member of the commission have any contact to disclose with regard to this case?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Reyes and Mr. Heimer queued up to speak. I'm assuming you're both here to speak on behalf of the applicant.
Yes, this is Skip Heimer. I'll speak first. I'm the architect working with Chase Bank on this project. Address is 2000 Shawnee Mission Parkway, Missionwood, Kansas. Basically, this project was basically already approved on the September meeting. It was on the consent agenda. At the time, it had 2 conditions of approval that at the time we weren't aware of, and so we didn't attempt to pull it off the consent agenda. So basically, we're back tonight to talk about removing one of the conditions, specifically the pedestrian access. We had originally addressed this comment with the staff prior to that September meeting, basically noting that this was a drive-up ATM, not affiliated with the branch bank, and that the bank could not allow pedestrian access to a drive-up ATM for safety and liability issues. I mean, we feel that providing pedestrian access to a drive-up ATM in a parking lot is a potential safety issue for pedestrians. You know, if this was affiliated with a branch bank, there would be a pedestrian accessible ATM as a part of the building, you know, which is designed specifically for pedestrian access, but a drive-up ATM is not. So basically what we're asking tonight is to remove that condition of approval of the pedestrian access.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Mr. Reyes, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, the other thing is we've done drive-up ATMs in all parts of the market in St. Louis and Kansas City, and none of these locations we've put any type of sidewalk. And really putting a sidewalk for a drive-up ATM is, in our opinion, a really dangerous precedent and really should not be a part of this project.
Is it your contention that the sidewalk promotes walk up? I mean, being in a parking lot, don't you think people are going to walk up to it if they want to anyway, regardless of whether there's a sidewalk there or not? So is your contention the sidewalk promotes the walkability?
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, thank you. Questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I'll open up the public portion of the meeting, and anyone in the audience wants to speak in favor of or in opposition to this request tonight? Seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to Director Hand for comment.
Hey, Mr. Chair, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Again, this, as the applicant said, this was a rehearing, if you will, of an approval that was made on the consent agenda in our September meeting. Excuse me. Basically, we're following or interpreting the commercial design guidelines, which require us to think about pedestrian connections to uses and through internally sites. And while it seems somewhat counterintuitive that we would promote walkability to a drive-up ATM, it is a part of the existing parcel. You can kind of see it in this image a little bit better. It is an excess parking lot of this existing strip mall. And so we felt it was appropriate to include and ask for a redesign to allow pedestrian connectivity from Parallel Parkway to the site, to specifically the ATM use. The way that we wrote just as a side note, the way that we wrote this sort of recommendation and application over again was to essentially to have you approve it with the same conditions. So you could prove it without the condition, without the conditions, and let me go to them right now so that we're all on the same page. You would basically, if you agreed with the applicant and did not want to require a sidewalk, you could approve by removing that first condition. The applicant and staff did talk through landscaping. So those are the same two conditions of approval of the past plan review. We're just looking at it again, saying that it still needs to be the same thing. If you agree with the applicant, you can remove condition 1. Condition number 2, again, is regarding landscaping, and those have already been agreed to and incorporated by the applicant moving forward. The only other thought I would have is there is an existing median in the parcel that runs along the eastern property line of this. I believe it's it's not a quick trip.
7-Eleven.
Okay, 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven.
If it was a quick trip, you'd know about it, Gunnar.
Okay. Yeah, right. So, but again, to think through the entire design guidelines as you see it for the commercial design guidelines, there should be some pedestrian connectivity. Currently, it's provided off of around on the side of Hutton, but you could provide it essentially through the site and to the something like what is proposed, continuing on, crossing the drive aisle and into the pedestrian circulation that exists with the existing strip mall right there. But we'd be happy to answer any questions. We recommend that you maintain the sidewalk.
Thank you. Questions for Director Hand?
Aren't you concerned about public safety by placing a sidewalk there?
Mr. Reyes, with the questions are for the commission staff, for the director, not for you. Questions from the commission to Director Hand? Okay, seeing none, I will stand for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff stipulations.
Motion is for approval of the existing stipulations that were approved at the September meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, there's a second. Is there now discussion?
I have a question.
Commissioner Reasons?
Yeah, where's the sidewalk supposed to go? 'Cause I guess I'm having a hard time figuring out. Is that what's going to go along parallel Parkway, or where's the sidewalk supposed to go?
Can you blow it up, Gunner, please, and show us?
Can you see that, Commissioner Reasons?
Yes, the dark gray spot.
Is the sidewalk parallel Parkway is right here to the south, page south as well. And so we're essentially asking them to build it off the existing sidewalk, crossing the Parkway Drive aisle, and then rebuilding it directly up to the pad, which they're going to build the ATM.
Okay. And I will say this to the petitioner as well. I mean, almost every ATM around here in KCK, you'll see people walking up to the ATM. It's not uncommon. So, and I understand why the city is requesting that. So that makes total sense to me.
Any more discussion? Additional discussion, excuse me.
I mean, are we able to make any further comment?
At this time, Mr. Heimer, the public portion of the meeting is closed, and this is just for discussion among the commissioners. Unless they have a specific question for you all. Additional discussion or clarification needed on the motion for approval? I'm not seeing any, so we'll go for a roll call.
I have a question, Jeff.
Commissioner Pauly.
Yeah, I think I might be looking for a little more clarification here. I can see some level of concern about people trying to cross, and I can see some level of concern about a sidewalk that goes up to an ATM. Is this standard for all of these drive-through ATMs, the new ones that they're putting in now? Is this a standard procedure for you guys to request this?
Are you addressing your question to the petitioner or the director?
Is this the standard way that we're doing these?
Director Hand?
Yes, please.
Sorry. Gunner Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. This is the first one that we've seen to apply where we're applying the commercial design guidelines as we interpret them. And so again, the applicant and us are asking for clarification on how the commission wants to apply its design standards specific to this type of use. We anticipate there being more, but this is the first one I've seen, I should say. It's not too dissimilar from the pedestrian access for the security bank that we saw the other day, where they prioritized the automobile and we asked for certain redesigns, and that one didn't. They ended up providing pedestrian access to the bank branch, but not reorienting to be more pedestrian oriented. This one, again, we think addresses the need for additional pedestrian circulation in commercial developments.
Okay. Are you requesting that so where the sidewalk goes up and abuts the ATM, are you expecting there to be an ATM that faces towards the sidewalk as well, or are they going to have to walk into the drive lane to access the ATM?
Back in the summer, early fall, we had asked if there was going to be a second ATM, and if it could face the pedestrian, and they said that this was only for one ATM and it would only face the automobiles. We requested if they could add a second one, and they didn't want to do that for obvious reasons. I'm sure it's twice as expensive.
We're asking people to walk up. Well, we're making it so that people can walk up to the ATM, but they will have to step into the drive lane to access the ATM.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or discussion? Gunnar, does the Department of Urban Planning and Design have any comment with regard to the assertion of safety? That the sidewalk encourages walk-up traffic to a drive-up bank or ATM?
Again, the commercial design guidelines are pretty clear. We're supposed to not prioritize the automobile. We're supposed to provide additional means other than the automobile to access commercial uses. This is a commercial use that they're adding to an existing commercial use, and we believe that we believe we're providing greater safety by creating a pedestrian access to it. Now, when you get to it and you walk into a drive aisle, I mean, yeah, that's not ideal, but I would say this would make the site safer.
Okay. Other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Chairman, I need to clarify the motion because the application is to remove the stipulations. And the commission, the maker of the motion, wants to keep the stipulations, correct?
Correction. The motion was to
So,
approve the
me-
original design guideline standards
Right.
that were approved in September.
So when technically we are denying this application and upholding the previous approval with the two stipulations.
That would be correct. Is that correct, Commissioner Mueller and Commissioner, I'm sorry, who are the makers of the motion? Commissioner Mueller?
Yes.
All right, so that is the intent of your motion.
Yes.
To deny this request and to uphold the previously approved design from September.
Correct.
And that is the okay with the second. Is that correct? Mr. Ernst?
Just moving it along. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
I apologize for the confusion.
No, that's all right. So roll call, please, Janet.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Nay.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
No.
Mueller,
Aye.
Polly,
No.
Reasons,
Aye.
okay, so it's 4-3. However, we have 8 members present. It takes 5 to pass a motion. Mr. Chairman.
Chair rules in favor of the motion.
Okay, so the vote is 5 in favor and 3 opposed to denying this application and upholding the previous approval of the prior application with stipulations. And that
That is
passes 5-3. This does not go to the Board of Commissioners.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we need to go back to change of zone applications 3229 and 3230 for Chase Thompson. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agriculture District for agricultural purposes at 1959 South 51st Street and 2020 South 51st Street.
That's 2025 South 51st.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. And I still do not see Mr. Thompson in the audience. Director, is there anyone in the audience that came tonight to speak for or against either one of these two applications? If you would, please raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone, so I will close the public portion of the meeting. I will go to Director Hand for his comments. And how do you want to handle in the absence of the petitioner?
Mr. Thompson was here before. I think he probably thought that when his Boza case was approved that it included these changes of zones. So I think we can move forward again, these are batched with a very similar request that Mr. Thompson made in our previous hearing in October. So I feel comfortable going through this for you if you don't mind.
All right, that'd be fine.
All right, so changes on 3229 is related to the Boza case 2398. Again, this piece of property is just under the 5-acre minimum to be moved to the agricultural district. Again, because the Boza case was approved earlier tonight, you are essentially allowing this case to move forward. It's located in the Argentine/Turner part of the community. This is the property at hand. The next case is the property directly to the south. Again, Mr. Thompson's owned this land for quite some time. He lives on the next case's property to the south. This is the one directly to the north where, again, he just wants to maintain. He talked about potentially future agricultural uses, but mostly he wants to maintain it for biodiversity. It looks a lot like this. He might do a little bit of thinning of the forest and planting some more native species is what he mentioned to this. We've received no opposition or support. Also, this property has had 0 NOVs on it, so we recommend approval. And then I'll go ahead. Do you want me to do the other one too? Yeah, okay. Again, 3230, this one's associated with Boza 2399, exact same thing, just under 5-acre minimum approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals earlier tonight. Again, this one's the house with its existing single family home on it, not too dissimilar in images. Again, no support, no opposition, no NOVs. We recommend approval with the following conditions of both. You're muted, Mr. Carson.
I'm sorry. Questions for Director Hand? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion on 3229 for 1959 South 51st Street. Commissioner
Move
Ernst.
to approve.
Commissioner Ernst.
Move the Kansas City Planning Commission recommend approval of petition 3229, subject to conditions.
Motion for approval made by Commissioner Ernst. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of change of zone application 3229, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed. Jeff, you're muted.
I'm sorry. This will be heard once again on December 3rd at 7 p.m. Commissioner Ernst, did you want to make a motion on petition 3230 for 2025 South 51st Street?
Only if I get to read the whole thing.
I want you to read it. That's why I'm calling on you.
I move the Kansas City Planning Commission recommend approval of petition 3230, subject to staff stipulations.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Ernst for approval, seconded by Commissioner Armstrong. Any discussion?
Does anyone know why I do that?
Because that's a proper way to make a motion.
We have a winner.
There you go. I'd like to see you form it to phrase it in the form of a question in honor of Mr. Trebek. But other than that, we'll go with the way you did it.
Doesn't happen very often.
Okay, thank you. A discussion on the motion for approval by Commissioner Ernst. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Huey,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Moeller,
Commissioner Mueller.
Sorry. Aye.
Pauly,
Aye.
Reasons.
In the spirit of things, who is I?
Mr. Chairman, that motion to recommend approval of change of zone application 3230, subject to the conditions in the staff report, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you. This will be heard once again December 3rd at 7 p.m. before the Board of County Commissioners. Janet, I believe that concludes the agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct. However,
No howevers. No. 9:35, we don't do however.
yeah, we do.
We do however up till 9 and that's it. Go ahead.
Next month's meeting, we would like, with the chairman's permission, to have start at 5 o'clock. Jeff Fisher with the Public Works Department wants to come before you again, as they have a couple of times, to talk about the CMIP.
And you want to give them a little background? This is to kind of get a jump on 2021 so that we get some background before we're basically before the entire CMIP is put before us for approval. They want to give us some background and kind of want us to take a lead on providing some guidance and direction on moving forward. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Chair, again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. If you guys recall my first meeting last April, we heard the CMIP, but it was the first time you guys have ever seen it. And so at that meeting you requested, and we had told you that we were going to do better next time, that there would be a workshop, if you will, to review what we were thinking for, what Public Works was thinking for its 2021 capital improvement and maintenance project budget. So they wanted to come in December to give you an update and background. They're going to provide you some materials that you can essentially think through for a couple of months, and then later in 2021, probably in February, maybe March, they were going to come back to us and seek a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. This is all sort of a process by which we're going to continue to improve and make changes to how we run internally the CMIP. The thinking is in November 2021 is when we'll do the first meeting for the 2022 cycle. You'll get a background in November. You'll probably have a second round in December, and then seek approval in the early parts of 2022. Not this round, but next round, we're going to try to go even deeper with the Planning Commission as per the ordinance, and really seek your input before we go too far out and provide recommendations. So we're slowly working our way back to getting to looking for your input before we make any major decisions on the CMIP as it's supposed to happen. We're just sort of untethering ourselves from how things have gone over the last couple decades, and that takes a little bit of time. So next month we're hoping to do from 5 to 6 an hour of CMIP with the Department of Public Works, and then jump right into BOSA.
So make plans accordingly with your schedules. I appreciate that very much. Anybody else have anything? So,
yes, I have a question for you. Why did you give me so much trouble about talking when I gave the Reader's Digest version, and then you didn't say anything to Director Hand, who gave the Webster's Dictionary version?
Yeah, I was gonna. I just didn't want to call him out in public. I'll get him later. We'll put him on the list with Commissioner Miller.
All right, I'm done.
Commissioner Ernst.
Usually if we have an early meeting, there's dinner involved. How are you going to handle that, Janet?
I'll be sitting here eating my dinner during the meeting, and you can watch.
You'll get to watch Janet eat.
Just Uber Eats to everybody.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay.
Just have your dinner, and we'll just all eat together while we're at the meeting.
We can do that. All right. Well, thank you all for your participation and attendance, and we will see you all next month. Gunnar, could I keep you and Janet and Patrick after class for just a minute?
Oh, geez, I don't care. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble.
Good
night, everyone.
Good night.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to stop the recording.
That's fine. Thank you.